we'll go ahead and get started. If everyone can please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pat, will you please conduct the roll call?
Ellen Anderson.
Here.
Scott Hardeman.
Here.
Bruce Horn.
Here.
Monica Housel. Mary Kay Jacobson.
Here.
Greg Jones.
Here.
Barb Storr.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, there are 6 board members present, therefore we do have a quorum.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the prior board minutes from March 27th, 2025.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll start here with the across the board. Covenants and restrictions, the CNR amendment that we have before everyone. The board has announced a special vote on amending the CNRs to allow the declarant to directly bill property owners for the installation of infrastructure necessary to allow for residential development. If you live where there is a street, you are not affected by this amendment. The area that is most affected is where there are undeveloped sea level lots south of Peavine. There are approximately 8,000 lots in that area that without the passage of this amendment will likely never be developed. After the board meeting concludes there will be an opportunity for members to ask questions and get answers. There are 3 open Q&A sessions scheduled that are available for members to sign up to attend. The dates and times of those sessions are today from 2:30 to 4, and today from 5 to 6:30, and Monday, April 28th from 3 o'clock to 4:30. And Shannon, I think you're here, right? Stand up so everybody can see you here. So if you want to sign up for one of the ones today, Shannon's right there and we can get you signed up, okay? So we're encouraging everybody to please come. After this meeting, there will be materials available that you can take with you and that have been set up and we have set up an email where your questions that we can receive them and give you answers. That email address is candramendment@fairfieldglade.cc. The board unanimously supports the passage of this amendment. Your vote is important because it takes 75% of the members voting to vote yes on the amendment for it to pass. Voting will start May 27th and ends June 21st this year. Our construction manager, J&G, has begun mobilization activities to begin the first phase of the Druid Hills clubhouse construction. Actual construction activities should begin before the end of the month. We will be hosting the official groundbreaking for the clubhouse construction at 11 a.m. April 28th at the Druid Hills clubhouse site. All are welcome to come to the ceremony. We ask that you remember that the area is a construction site, and as such, you will be required to keep minimum distances away for safety reasons. Immediately after this meeting, there will be a presentation to update the Druid Hills project financials. We will go through the financial details of the project, compare them to the projected costs that were presented at the July 27, 2024 meeting. We will also update the membership on the financing plan for the project. Streaming will be available, so after a short break of the meeting, we will continue with the presentation. Members who would like to share additional comments regarding the Druid Hills Golf Club project can do so by sending an email to the steering committee at druidhillsprojects@fairfieldglade.cc. The 2024 on-site audit process has been successfully concluded. The audited financial report is expected to be available to the membership by the 2nd or 3rd week of May. A budget and financing schedule and Druid Hills project progress report was presented to the membership following this meeting today. So everyone will be able to see that as posted on the website, the member website, as we go through it. Strategic planning update. The Strategic Planning Committee, along with the senior management team and members of the Board of Directors, have created an initial strategic plan roadmap. The roadmap, along with review of the accomplishments to date, will be presented at this meeting. Actually, there will be another presentation after this meeting, so the people that want to stay and get the more details on the strategic plan can do so. And I'm going to sum all that up here at the end. So we've got a lot of things going on today, so I want to make sure everyone's aware. Members who would like to share comments regarding the strategic planning initiative can reach out by sending email messages to the team at strategicplanning@fairfieldglade.cc. Information concerning the strategic planning team is also available on the Community Club website at www.fairfieldglade.cc. Board elections. There will be one property owner board at-large director's position open for election this year. Applications will be available at the Community Club member website beginning Monday, May 12th, and they must be returned by Wednesday, June 4th at noon. Like last year, there will be a meeting for all potential candidates to attend to understand the commitment necessary to be an effective board member and to familiarize the potential candidates with our key governance documents. Although this meeting is not required, we strongly encourage all potential candidates or people interested in running to attend. We will announce to the community who did attend this meeting. The Firehouse number 1, an emergency management services building. Initial pre-bid estimates from those general contractors planning to submit project bids were due April 17th. Upon receiving the pre-bid estimates, AEI did review to determine the compliance with the strict bidding process. Upon completion, AEI will review the information with the Fairfield Glade Community Club for preparation to select a general contractor. And we'll have some motions here today regarding this particular item. Racket Center expansion. The Racket Center expansion ad hoc steering committee has been formed. William Taylor, Racket Center director, along with Greg Reppert, project manager, will provide the leadership for the committee. The committee members are Dan Dietz, Terry Hanna, Ron Johnson, Ann Massoud, Dale Schnarr, Brad Reuter, and Julie Schaefer. The committee is working to establish the process for collecting input for members of the community, as well as researching other sites and development options. Food and beverage department is offering a various programming for May. More detailed information, including dates, times, and menus, and pricing has already been put out, but I'll go through some of the key dates. May 5th, there's trivia and taco night at the center. The cost is $25 per person. A few tickets are still available for purchase, so if you're interested, please get your tickets purchased because seating is limited. May 11th, the Mother's Day lunch buffet will be held at the center. The cost is $55 per person, and reservations are required. May 13th, there's live entertainment at Stonehenge Grill featuring Don and Tommy. On May 21st, there's a prisoner wine dinner at the Stonehenge Grill on May 21st, for $125 per person. The menu and additional information will go out shortly. May 24th will be our first fish fry at St. George Marina. Tickets are now on sale at the Marina or Stonehenge Grill. And May 27th, live entertainment at Stonehenge Grill deck featuring Dennis Hill. I don't know if many of you have been over there on these Tuesday nights, mainly when they do the live entertainment. There's quite a crowd, and people are having a really good time. So I encourage you to go, and it's going to be even a little, I think, easier once they move it outside with the weather getting a little bit warmer, because we'll have a lot more room. So I stopped by there Tuesday night, and it was pretty packed. So that's a good thing. This is our April update from across the board. Now, I want to go over those 3 meetings that are happening after this meeting today, and they'll happen in this order. The first presentation, Mary Kay and Jason will give it, and that's the update for the Druid Hills financials and how we're handling the loan and how we're doing all of that, the financing of the building. The second presentation Scott will be doing, and we've got a roadmap that we're going to take everyone through for the strategic planning piece. Then the third one, we've got a set of slides that we've been showing at the Q&As, and we're going to ask people that are here. Unfortunately, we can't get them from the streamers, but you can get your questions answered if you have some, and then we'll also remind everybody about the email area where you can do that as well. Okay? All right. Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Greg. The following is a summary of POA amenities and wastewater through March 31st. POA and amenities. Overall revenue for year-to-date through March 31st was ahead of budget by $89,000. The assessment revenue was slightly higher, and other revenues by approximately $58,000. Food and beverage, golf are in line with estimates for March 2025 with a substantial increase in our play. Cost of goods sold. Cost of goods were slightly better than budget with a variance of $18,000. It was anticipated cost of goods would be approximately $343,000 for the year to date, and actual cost of goods sold was $324K, respectively. Golf cost of goods sales were exactly on target through March 31st. Operating expenses, and this includes payroll. We had considerable savings in the general expense to include payroll. Expenses year to date were $4.7 million against an estimate of $5.3 million. Repairs and maintenance were well below budget by $123,000. Materials and supplies were $239,000, and payroll was $197,000. Overall, we are below budget guidelines by $596,000 for the year to date through March. Net income. Net income for POA and amenities are ahead of schedule by $685,000. Coupled with our top-line revenue beat of $89,000 and our savings in expenses, we are well positioned to go into the season of 2025 ahead of schedule. Wastewater treatment, plant and sewer. Overall revenue, top-line revenue for sewer came in below guidelines by approximately $28,000, or 3.5% respectively. Variances include negative commercial sewer fees of $10,000 and other revenue miss of approximately $11,000. Operating expenses, including payroll. Large variances were experienced positively for payroll, materials, and repairs again in March. Total in this area of general expense was a positive $117,000 through March of 2025. Our net income for sewer was better than budget expectations for 2025, and March actual sewer reported $196,000 against a budget of $107,000, which is a positive variance of $89,000. And more detail on all of that obviously is on the website with the publication of the financials.
I just have two comments to make.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I'd like to note that a little good news in food and beverage. Due to staff training efforts, general expenses are under budget because they're more aware of cost controls. And the second point being in golf, the packages are almost 4 times what they were budgeted for this month. So that means we've got good revenue coming in.
Yep. Thank you. Good observation. Thank you, MK.
Nico Sergio, community club member since April of 2005. First question or comment is, could we put page numbers on the financial report? It would be helpful for me at least. On page 10, there's a comment about a dishwasher lease. Is that common, or should we be doing that?
The question is,
Jason.
We're leasing a dishwasher?
yeah, so that's normal for food and beverage. I think Bill would agree with me on that. For us to lease dishwashers because they maintain, and that maintenance includes chemicals and everyday maintenance, so our staff is not doing it. It's done through whether it's Hobart or whoever we lease it from.
Ecolab.
Okay, all right. On the same page, there's a comment about the lifeguards. Have we hired, there was a big discussion about lifeguards, I think, 2 years ago. So have we started hiring lifeguards? Do we
That I don't have an
Well,
answer
I
for.
can take you through that, Nico. We hire them when we can. We try to get trained ones. It's very difficult to get them. That's just the honest to goodness truth. And we'll never have enough for all of the things that we would like to have them for. But we continue to look for them. We continue to hire them whenever we can. This season, during the summers, we usually get college students or high school students. We actually will pay for their training to get certified if we can get them here. But it's a very difficult thing.
When it was discussed 2 or 3 years ago,
Yes?
the health department said if we're open to the public, we had to have lifeguards. Is that
Yes.
still a
And
requirement?
what we've talked about with those people, with the health department and the state, is that we're doing our best efforts to try to get them here. The alternative is if we don't do that, we've got to close them down. So we're trying all we can to get people here. It's just difficult. I think the state understands that. I think the county understands that. We certainly understand that, and I hope members do too. But we do our best faith efforts to do that.
Okay. On page 13, the Maple Ridge sewer installation, if I'm reading this right, we overran by about $17,000. Was there a poor estimate when we did that with Hopper, or is there?
Bruce, would you like to?
Bruce, you want to take that one?
Maybe
Well, in general, it's about the Maple Ridge sewer installation. Up, come on up here.
So the Maple Ridge Sewer extension was bid as though it was a normal project at $28 a foot. Unfortunately, the entire project required rock removal right to the surface. And so, yes, it was over budget considerably because of the time it took Hopper to install the pipe.
Okay.
All right?
And just to put a point on this, this is the same as anywhere. We have a flat rate that we charge, and if we run into an area that we thought was going to be easy, turns out to be hard, we'll overrun in those areas too, and that's why we have the metric in terms of what we're going to charge for it. So we don't want new users having to pay a premium just because they happen to where they live.
The current rate of $28 per foot usually absorbs enough of any rock that's encountered in the job, but in this case, the entire project was rock right to the surface, so.
Okay, next question, Bruce. Bruce, don't leave. The Robin Hood Phase 2 bocce courts, it went $6,000 over the budget. I know that we had wooden posts and they were replaced by the metal posts. Would you happen to know what the cost of just putting in the metal posts?
I don't. I can get that number for you, though.
Okay. all right.
Approximately $26,000
Just to put in the metal post?
to switch it out. Yeah.
Post, okay.
That ballpark, Greg?
Oh, I have another question. The fire hydrants, do we buy fire hydrants? I thought maybe Crab Orchard did that. I don't understand.
We purchase, Fairfield Glade Community Club purchases the fire hydrants, and the Crab Orchard installs them.
Okay. All right, I know they're expensive. That was on page 14 if people are following. That's it. I asked the other question the other day, so thank you.
Okay? Any other questions on this one? Ted?
Ted Landers, just one item. Mary Kay, you mentioned that there was the training for the food and beverage and that things were in line, but yet on the March income statement variance detail, and I don't have a page number, it states under amenities that food and beverage was 8% under, the costs exceeded by 8% for food, beer, and wine sales, which were less than budgeted, which was a $36,000
It
deficit.
was the general expenses.
Speak
Well, pay-
in there. Yeah, okay, nobody could. I think,
It was the general expenses.
that
They
you were
used
talking
less because of the training that was done. They're more cost conscious.
Okay, so it's a positive, according to the records here,
Yeah.
that year-to-date, there were $50,000 in sales more for the first quarter, which is 17,000 or so a month, which is great. But then there's a net outflow of 63,000 according to the amenities for payroll and related expenses, which is what you addressed, and that was $26,000. So why is there a difference in what you're saying versus what's on the paper?
I'm talking about general expenses, not the payroll.
She's talking about a subcategory of the total.
Yeah,
Of food and beverage?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And as far as payroll, a lot of that was in the snack bars because they were training new people for the season.
Okay. Because it's, I mean, the 50,000 is really positive, there's an increase for the quarter, but when you got the outflow of 63 as a negative, that's not good.
Yeah, that was year-to-date, and we wore behind, January was a difficult month, as was February. So we looked to catch up, particularly in the snack bar areas, but they had to hire for the snack bars, as we do every year, when we can get staff. So we've had a lot of, it ideally can be more seasonalized, I believe, and we can look at that for future budgets to do a better job in seasonalizing that number. But I think we'll see improvement as we continue into the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tom Ratcliffe. So you guys have the report on food and beverage. We don't. I understand it's not a material thing, or at least considered material, but here's my questions. Stonehenge, where do we stand sales this year versus last year? Cost of sales, what are they at right now? And what's the net operating loss through March on those three? Now, it would be helpful to get the report that you guys have, but especially when we're talking about it at the end of this meeting. But, thank you.
You want
Tom?
to, you want to answer, Tom?
I was going to sit down.
Okay.
Tom,
Go on ahead.
Tom, if you don't mind, I heard your questions, but I want to make sure so you said the first question is revenue in reference to Stonehenge?
Yes.
So revenue for the month was 170,000 against an estimate of 160,000, which is the top line revenue. What was your second question?
And that part was, how's it compared to last year, first of all? So the 176, is that up or down over last year?
We are up by, we are ahead of last year by 3,000.
Thank you.
Year to date. What was your second question?
Okay, where do we stand on cost of sales?
So cost of sales for the month, we're at 63 against a budget of 63. Year to date, we are 148 against last year of 142.
Okay, those are dollars, by the way.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay, not percent. And the last one was, where do we stand operating income-wise through March?
For Stonehenge,
Yes.
so operating income, I'm gonna give you the month first. We had a loss of 10,000
Okay.
against a budget loss of 33, so we're 23 ahead of schedule.
Good.
Year to date, 141 was the actual thousand against 157 for last year. So as you can see, Stonehenge is markedly better than it has been.
It's helpful. Thank you for the information.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move into the general manager's report. Bill?
Thank you. Today, or this month in particular, a lot of what I would address is actually going to be addressed through some of the presentations and some agenda items that are coming up here shortly. But with that being said, I do want to share that it's an exciting time of year. I really hope everyone, with the long-awaited warmer weather, I think our April was a little bit, has been a little bit colder than we'd hoped, but we've got a lot of great events coming up. I know Greg touched on a few of them. Really encourage you to
stay informed, get on the website. We've got information readily available on everything that's going on. So we've got a lot of good events coming up with the warmer weather, and we're all excited, and staff is ready to go. I really want to thank all of the SMTs on their performance in this first quarter of 2025. I think, as you can see from the financial reports, we're in good shape, and a lot of that credit goes to our experienced senior management team and the jobs they do. So thanks to them and their staff. One of the things it's exciting to see, I know, is the bocce courts are now officially open. Drove by there this past Tuesday, another packed crowd. The bocce club was out, and there was probably 50, 60 people gathered around the courts enjoying a nice afternoon of bocce. And they're certainly open to newcomers that would like to join the fun with them as a club, or if you as an individual and your friends or family want to take advantage. It's a beautiful facility. Everything's in place now. It's really got all the comforts of benches and stands and trash cans, and just it's easy to go. And if you need, you can reserve. If you would like, you can reserve the courts through the center. We have rental equipment available that you can take down there. But if you have your own, by all means, bring your own. So it's nice to have that new amenity online, and look forward to lots of folks having fun there this summer. We'll be touching on the Druid project some more, the Druid Hills Clubhouse, but we are off and running. Everything is in place. We'll be speaking more to the financials and the financing that's in place, but we have gotten the go-ahead through the bank to mobilize, and therefore we're excited about that. With that in mind, we are having a grand opening ceremony this coming Monday at 11 a.m. at the Druid Hills. We will have a number of dignitaries from the local government will be present, and as well as those that have been actively involved in this project for the last several years. So feel free to come out and join us if you'd like, and celebrate this exciting time. The fire station EMS project, we have gotten the bids in on that project. They've been reviewed with the architectural, Peter Metz, the architect on the project, and we are in the process of selecting and notifying the GC to commence pre-construction services on that project. So as that comes along, we will certainly update you on that in the coming weeks. You will also be hearing in the next couple of weeks an introduction for a survey that we'll be doing of the membership. The initial survey will be a baseline survey. It's a company called Club Insights. They will be providing a survey that will be, as I said, give us a general baseline of where the membership's at relative to across the board amenities and departments. As we go forward, you'll be getting a quarterly survey of not the entire membership. So you won't, the approach is they will be surveying approximately 35% of the membership every couple of months. And that gives us a statistically significant feedback, but it doesn't wear everybody out that's getting surveyed too much. And that really is an operational survey that benefits me as well as, of course, the board, you, but our SMTs as to, where are our strengths, where are areas that we can certainly improve, and get a feedback on how we're doing. So those will be coming forth. You'll get, we're getting a little later start than we had originally hoped, but that's fine. You'll get this baseline one in mid-May, and then we'll get a follow-up in late summer, late July, early August timeframe, and then another one in the fall. So just wanted to share that. And there will be opportunities for supplemental questions on those surveys in the quarters as we move forward. If we're looking, the board in particular is looking for specific feedback on, say, the strategic plan, action plan, or if they're wanting specific feedback on another initiative, there may be supplemental questions, one or two questions on those. But they're very brief, very quick. The first one is longer than the others, but you'll get them. And we look forward to getting that data to help drive our decision making and to share with you so you know where we are in making educated decisions and business decisions based on data. The desilting project for 2025 is now completed, and so just wanted to pass that along. You'll be seeing that that's wrapped up. And we've also hired a new superintendent for the wastewater management department, and he will be coming on board in 1st of May. And you, excuse me, what? June, pardon me. What did I say, May? No, June, pardon me. You won't be able to miss him. He's a very stout gentleman. He's 6'11". So Scott is his name, and Scott's a great guy. He's got a lot of a great background, and he's coming to us from North Dakota via Oregon. He's originally from Oregon, but very talented man and young man, and I think Bruce is looking forward to putting together our SMT basketball team now, that we can go out into the community and maybe do a little better. Who knows? That's all I have for now, and thank you all.
You guys aren't paying him by linear foot, are you? Because Bruce is a bargain compared to 6'11". Okay, yeah?
Hey, Bill, just maybe on a quarterly basis or something like that, could you think of possibly giving us an update like on bocce ball? What's the revenue stream looking like quarterly? What's how's it trending?
Sure.
So we get an idea of, the big investment we made, how that's paying off. It'd be great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be a while to get a return on investment, but I don't think that amenity was particularly built for the revenue stream, but
Well,
I'll be
and-
happy to provide that.
And there's a lot more in it than just besides the bocce courts, too. There's landscaping, there's concrete, there's more to it than just the courts. So you'll have to keep that in mind when you hear the revenue, okay? Resort report, Barb.
Good morning. Wyndham timeshare visitors, month to date, 2,583. And year to date, we've had 10,155 visitors. As far as timeshare-like revenue, the center has generated $40,843, which is 41% of like revenue. The Racket Center, 4,613, which is 5%. Dartmoor Marina, 1,998, which is 7%. St. George, 1,630, which is 6%. Food and beverage, $27,087, which is 7%, for a total of $107,262, which is an average of 9%. So far, we are only down $1,000 from last year. And I think that's probably because all the rain we've had less golfers here. So thank you.
Okay. Ted?
Barb, I've noticed that there is a major redo of the exterior of the Wyndham resorts. It looks really nice. They're doing a great job. Do you want to just comment briefly about it? Because, I mean, it looks like they did roofs a couple of years ago, and they're doing all new siding, skylights, decks, outdoor furniture, windows.
Yes, the latest has been Stone Castle and Stone Castle Place, which is on Kingsborough, as well as Laurel Ridge. And Stone Castle was done first, and it has the hardy board siding that they've been putting on. And they unfortunately found a lot of structural problems when they took off the siding. The same with Laurel Ridge. However, that siding is something new. It's guaranteed for 50 years, and it's like hardy board with the cement base, but a guarantee of 50 years, so I don't think any of us will probably be around by then. But they do a great job with the outsides. I think this finishes the last of all the outsides of the 8 different associations, and so far no roofs yet, but they do a great job in outdoor furniture, and then the insides they do every 5 years. So we're really proud of our units here. Thank you.
Looks really nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Please come up.
My name's James Kozlowski.
Well, wait till you get the microphone.
Sure,
so-
okay. Hello.
There you
Hi,
go.
my name's James Kozlowski. Just had a question regarding the survey. Are we doing that, or are we paying a third-party vendor for that?
It's a third-party vendor. Club Insights is the name.
Okay, and what kind of answers do you expect when you're sending it out to 35% of the people and probably less than half of them are going to respond? I mean, how is a 17% opinion of what's going on here going to help guide us in any way?
Well, we'll see the number, but this is a,
You know what I'm saying, right?
my
You get a
understanding, it
survey-
is a statistically significant sampling.
Okay, so you're expecting to get a full, I guess would be 100% of the 35% you're expecting to reply.
That's not accurate. That's not correct, no.
Okay, well, I'm just, my question was, we're paying somebody to give us a sampling of less than even half of majority of who the people live here to give us a guidance, and I just was wondering how much it was costing us to get the misguidance.
How much it's costing us?
Yeah, how much is that survey going to cost us?
For the entire year, it's $18,000
Okay.
for 4 surveys, 3 surveys.
For 35% of the people and whatever comes in.
Well, no, the first one is 100% of the membership.
Okay.
That establishes the baseline. You're then surveying, which is what they do with all of their clients across the country, a portion of your membership, which in their experience, I'm not a statistician, but is a statistically significant sampling to give you feedback on how you're doing. And you avoid survey fatigue, but you're getting data that is informative.
Well, I agree, and it's a tough demographic in the Glade to get a lot of answers from anyways.
And the survey is structured as many surveys. If you don't participate, for instance, in golf, you're not going to get golf questions on the baseline survey. So you just fill it out based on your areas of interest and use patterns and likes and so forth to give the information that's needed to provide the baseline.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
We all
Thank
want
you.
we all want everything to get better.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a one-year commitment, and I've had experience with them in South Florida, and they did a very good job for us there. We'll see how it goes here. Hopefully, it'll be good.
Okay. So as the commercial is, as you get the surveys, please fill them out, right? That's what we want. Okay. We'll move into old business. First one up is the revised veteran lot policy. MK?
This policy was first introduced at the February 2025 board meeting and posted for member comments. At the March board meeting, I reported that I'd received 19 comments, many of them identifying the need for additional explanation of the policy. Following the board meeting, we posted FAQs on the review site, and since that posting, I'd only received 2 comments. Neither made any material difference to the policy itself. And just to reiterate, this is a way for Fairfield Glade to honor our nation's veterans, but it's also a promotional marketing effort to reduce the community club-owned A-tier lots. Again, the veteran must meet all the conditions of the policy within a 3-year time period in order to receive the refund, the biggest thing being they must build a personal residence. It's a one-time only offer. They can't buy multiple lots and expect to get the refund. It's only one time. Therefore, I move that we approve the veteran lot policy.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approved. Well, now we'll move into new business. Some of this is going to be a little bit out of sync because we're going to present this again after the meeting in the Druid Hills update on all the financials, but because we have to take some votes today, you're going to hear us do that for some of the financing pieces, but we'll answer all your questions that you have about that during the time after the meeting, okay? During the presentation. So, Jason? One bank?
One bank.
Thanks, Greg. The first item of discussion for lending is we have historically, Fairfield Glade has had a line of credit for emergency purposes. It's not delineated or for any other purpose, but just for emergencies. And primarily, we have used one bank for that, as our lender for that line of credit. They have proposed a new line of credit of $6 million. It's a 3-year term, and the interest rate on that is 7.25, which is a quarter basis point below the Wall Street Journal Prime. As that floats down, we will also float down. The floor is 4.5%, so it will not go below 4.5. Payment for the line of credit is monthly on accrued interest. And for collateralization on this line of credit, we propose using the center as the collateral for this specific line. In terms of cost for the line, should we not draw, there is no cost, but there are closing costs when it comes to appraisal, title, and the normal closing expenses for any commercial loan.
I want to reiterate that we've had this line of credit in the past. We never really used it. And the intention is it's really an emergency fund if we had to get cash, like through COVID. That's really when we took it out right after COVID. And that was one of the major reasons. If we had a problem like that again, we wanted to have cash available so we could do things like meet payroll, that type of thing. So that's what it's for. It's not going to be something that we're planning on using, but it's there if we really need it. Come on up.
I'm sorry.
No, please do.
You mentioned a floor.
Yes,
What's
sir.
the cap on the loan?
What would be the top rate?
Right, is it just 1/4 below Wall Street Prime?
It is. So if it happens, in the 80s, like Volcker raising it to 18%, we would be at that rate. But we're not drawing on the line, so it's.
I understand.
Yeah.
I spent 10 years working at Countrywide Loans in another life, so.
Yeah, so there
Had to
is.
get the loan question in.
Unfortunately, there's no ceiling, but there is a floor.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Okay? All right. Can I have a motion?
I make the motion that we approve the one bank Tennessee proposal for a line of credit.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Financing of Druid Hills. You're on a roll.
Thanks, Greg. So the second piece that I wanted to discuss is this is the specific financing for the Druid Hills Clubhouse construction. This is a loan that we will utilize for not only the construction, but the permanent financing. This is through Smart Bank. We put this out to several banks for bid. Smart Bank, we have a large relationship with, came back with the most attractive options. So for discussion purposes today, these are two loans that are being really closed in one. So we have a 18-month construction period, which would be interest only. That interest rate is the overnight offering rate. And to give you a rate as of today, that is 6.82%. And we pay interest only on this loan in arrears of drawdown. We have a full 18-month period, which we will utilize the full 18-month period for interest only. We anticipate through 12/31/2025 to have a total drawdown of $10 million by the end of December. In dollars, we would pay approximately $281,000 for 2025 in interest expense if we have that draw schedule. I'll get more detailed after the meeting with a presentation to show you how we anticipate to draw and how we came up with those numbers. But the second piece of this is also the permanent financing, Greg. And at the end of the 18-month period, whatever we have drawn down or the cost for the Druid Hills project will be into a permanent financing piece. The term of that is 84 months. The payment is principal and interest on a monthly basis, same rate, which is the overnight offering rate, plus 2.49, which today is 6.82%. And the loan is amortized over 20 years or 240 months.
Well, one or two things. It's important to note, and we're only going to take one vote because the two loans are connected, okay? So when you approve the one, you by nature approve the second. The other thing is, Jason, when we first started talking about this, the rates were even higher, weren't they?
They were. So their initial rate that was quoted was 7.5, and they have come down to 6.82.
So we hope that continues to happen for the, what I call the mortgage. We won't be drawing on that for a couple of years. So if rates do come down, we'll be the beneficiary of that. Any questions? Come on up. Do you have a question? No, yes, or? No.
Sorry.
You.
Just for the group, so they understand, can you clarify the loan term is 84 months, the amortization schedule is 20 years?
Yes, sir.
What that means for a layman back in the audience?
So
please?
in commercial lending, the amortization and the loan term are usually different. In this case, 84 months is what the bank is committed to in terms of keeping this loan. So at the end of that term or period, if our rates are lower, we could refinance with another bank or with the same institution.
And if they're higher?
If they're higher, then they're higher. Well, that's why we have voting for President of the United States, is if it goes much higher, we can change that.
Can't vote the Federal Reserve, though.
Federal Reserve is appointed by the President of the United States.
Okay. All right. Come on up.
Sure.
So what we're doing is a 20 doing 7. Is there any prepayment penalty on the first 84 months? So if the interest rates drop, we can jump in and refinance at a better rate?
So the 84 months is a prepayment penalty which starts at a rate and then goes down. And then that ends at the end of 72 months, and then they have an additional 12 months after that. So there is a prepayment penalty, but not refinancing with them. So if the term and rate or structure changes, we can refinance with Smart Bank. They're trying to protect their interest in reference to.
You get what I'm saying? In other words, we don't want to be stuck at 84 months without the ability, if rates drop down through the floor again, not to be able to take advantage of that.
So the rate is floating. If the rates drop through the floor, we will capture that.
Okay.
So the bank has a commitment, we have an obligation, but we have successfully lended with the bank that gives us options, is what a successful lending relationship is.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I make the motion that we approve the loan and financing for the Druid Hills project.
So moved. Second.
Yeah, we're not going to have two motions. All right.
Right?
You kind of caught me off guard.
know.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I would also like to add that our attorney his partner is looking through our lending relationship paperwork, and we will get advisement from legal counsel as well to make sure that we're doing the right thing in reference to the loan documents.
Can you also remind the audience of the moves you made that are generating interest now and the rate of that for the club payments?
Sure.
Because, that was,
Take some
Jason
kudos.
is actually smarter than he looks. Jason is doing a great, I'm being, we both
We
are.
make a-
so to
we
try
make
to
a
hear-
motion to vote on that?
That's right.
Second.
But I think it's helpful to share that, because some of that really is beneficial and offsets a little of what we're incurring relative to the
And
southern.
talk about the moving to relationships with our local environment.
Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing is you want me to pop the hood on this whole process. So when I started, I noticed that the amount of interest that we were receiving on our idle cash was 0.15%. And that's roughly $17 million that was just sitting idle, and it was benefiting the bank. So we transitioned, negotiated with the bank, and we are now receiving 3% interest on all those funds, which is approximately $500,000 a year for just found money. We utilize that money to go into the debt service. So in reality, this $282,000, the bank will be paying that through their our interest MMA accounts with them. We will not actually come out of pocket. Bruce Cox put together the debt service several years ago. So we actually will not come out of pocket until 2028 on any of this lending. And then next year, we also, for us, they wanted 20% injection of capital. So instead of us cashing those MMA accounts and using cash, we are going to set aside 20% into an interest-bearing account. So they will again pay us 3%. So we'll earn an additional $100,000 on our money capital infusion that we were supposed to do with cash. They've agreed to allow us to set it aside. As we meet obligations, the loan to value comes down, they will release that cash back to us, and it'll go back into another MMA account for additional interest. So we are bringing in what was $17,000 a year, roughly $24,000 with sewer and interest. We are now bringing over close to $600,000 a year. Which we will use to hire lifeguards for Nico.
Okay. Scott?
Hold on, I gotta quit laughing first. As Bill mentioned in his general manager report, we're at the point that we're gonna select a general contractor for pre-construction services on the new fire and EMS station number 1. AEI has gone through the process of requesting bids, and the recommendation is that we approve to proceed with Stubbs Construction for pre-construction services for the fire and EMS station number 1. The whopping amount for the pre-construction services is $1.
I second the motion.
Okay.
I would like to just share with the audience that this next phase of pre-construction services, obviously with all of the other bidders, they were free to quote and as part of their bid what they would charge for that. Stubbs is charging us $1 for their pre-construction services, which includes full analysis or receipt of all drawings and putting out to bid through a bid process with 3 separate bids with subs to get a price on the project, a competitive final estimate. And then if we at that point do not feel that they performed their pre-construction services or we're not happy with where we are free to walk away and start over if we so desire. I don't see that happening, but just wanted to make clear that our commitment at this point is $1 for pre-construction services, and then we will proceed again with the full commitment at the appropriate time.
Okay. Any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. You're still on a roll, Scott. You're up next.
All right, so you heard in the, across the board, we've selected our steering group for the expansion of the Racket Center. This is a request to approve the charter that represents the requirements and the objectives of the Racket Center. And just as a reminder, 2 years ago, the Racket Sports Committee had made a presentation to the board about expanding the pickleball capacity at the Racket Center by 8 courts. They had projected even more based on the continued usage. So what we're asking this committee to do is gather more input from the community, as well as take a look at that initial recommendation, the approach that was recommended 2 years ago, and come back to the board with a recommendation as to what makes sense in proceeding at this point in time with new data and new information. So this is a motion to approve the charter for the Racket Center expansion project.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We have a couple ACC appointments that we want to make.
Only one.
Well, one, I'm sorry,
Yep.
yeah.
There's currently a vacancy on the Architectural Control Committee, the ACC, with the departure of Dave Bramlett from the committee, leaving an unexpired term until the end of December 2026. The ACC chair has recommended John Zelig to fill the vacancy. John's been a resident of Fairfield Glade since 2005 and comes to us with years of professional experience with engineering, construction, and project management, especially in residential design and construction. He's familiar with residential construction codes and policies. He aspires to preserve our community values, atmosphere, and character, as well as protecting the members' investments for an economically vibrant community. Therefore, I move that John Zelig be approved to fill the unfilled term on the ACC.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. John is seated. Scott, you're up with the Strategic Planning Committee.
We have two openings in the Strategic Planning Committee. The committee interviewed 3 candidates and unanimously recommended 2 of those for appointment to the Strategic Planning Committee. These appointments will be a little bit different. They'll be for 3-year terms that start next January, but during this period of time, they will serve in an ex de facto mode of a non-voting member so they can help participate in the activities of strategic planning until their term begins. The first candidate is Locke Kelly. Locke's been a member of Fairfield Glade since 1979 and has been involved in significant strategic planning efforts both in the military and in civilian careers. Second candidate is Dr. Kimberly Yarno. Kim comes with more than 25 years of experience in community and nonprofit committees and boards, and can offer perspective of the next generation of Fairfield Glade residents. So with that, I make a motion to approve these 2 new candidates in non-voting capacity through January 1st of next year, and then as a 3-year term starting in January.
I second the motion.
I think it's important to note that when we talked about this yesterday, I think the key reason why we're doing it is to really stagger out the terms for people, because we were in a situation that we would have had everyone going off of the committee at the end of this year. That's not a good idea with the Strategic Planning Committee if we need some continuity going forward. So that's really the reason why we're trying to get a couple people involved now so that we can stagger them. There'll be some people on the Strategic Planning Committee that'll stay on.
We'll be back with the existing 5 members and renewals for various terms, so we get that staggering going.
So that's really the purpose here. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We're making one appointment to the Election Committee. These are appointments that are by the bylaws, are done by the president. We really don't need to vote on them, but we wanted to make sure everyone knows. So Rosemary Kessberger will be the another appointment. That'll fill up the Election Committee this year. So that appointment's now been made. We don't need to vote on that, so we're moving on. Okay? Request for the Vista to place a rack for vistas at the entryway inside Stonehenge Grill and Racket Center.
So we received the request, and we had a lot of discussion yesterday in the workshop. Currently, Vista can be found at the admin building, the center here, and at the multi-purpose and library. During our discussion, we talked about other publications. Sometimes you see the home finders and various types of things, and during that, we had some conversation about what we wanted to do in terms of those types of informative information, whether it's a newspaper or whether it's a real estate type thing, what we want to do. So our recommendation is that we stay with just the 3 locations for the Vista at the center, the admin building, the library, and multi-purpose, and that we move some of the other publications that you see at some of the clubhouses and various places to those 3 locations. So we'll have 3 locations where folks can go to get those informational pamphlets and that type of thing. So for purposes of this request, I motion that we deny the request to add additional locations for the Vista.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I want to make very clear that this is not something punitive to anyone. It's really consolidating the publications in 3 places that it really makes sense to. So it's, even though we're denying this request, we'll be sending letters to all the people that are putting publications in to make sure we got them in just the 3 spots. Okay? All right? No further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Center camera replacement.
We have a capital request for camera replacements for the center. And do you have, I don't have that car in front of me, but it is for replacements of cameras. They're end of life for the center. And have you got information on that? Good. Great. Thanks, John.
So we originally budgeted.
Introduce yourself, John.
Oh, hi, I'm
Yeah.
John Blankenship, IT manager. We originally budgeted, I think it was $37,000 for cameras here at the center. This is probably our oldest surveillance system. And due to the rising cost of goods, the quote we had for the budget was over a year old. And just the rising cost of materials has pushed the cost of the camera up to
$47,820.
Yeah, $47,820. And we built in some contingency because the quote I got was before a lot of tariffs went into place, and so we needed extra contingency just in case the tariffs affected the price of these cameras. They're manufactured in South Korea, and they're approved for government surveillance. There's no spyware or anything like that on them, and so that's my car.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, this is an adjustment to an earlier car, so it's not a new budget item. It is an adjustment to it. We want to make sure that it's recorded properly for the budget purposes. So with that, I move that we approve the car for center camera replacement of $47,820.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Great, I have a quick follow-up.
Yeah. Well,
We are blessed to have Jessica Speaker in the audience here, who works with Club Benchmarking, who we also utilize and are members of that organization, which provides survey and industry standard feedback across the board on a lot of areas that we value. And she was kind enough to email me during our discussion earlier and shared, just for your informational purposes, that for Fairfield Glade to have, it requires 1,507 survey results are needed to have a 99% confidence level with a 3% margin of error. So that is our data point that we strive to attain. If we're below that, we'll take that into consideration. So thank you for that, Jessica. And I just wanted to pass that along. All right?
Good.
Okay, before we get into comments from the floor, I was incorrect not to acknowledge that we have 2 of our commissioners here, Colleen Mull and Joe Sherrill. Can you raise your hand so everybody knows who you are? Oh, did Joe? I thought I saw Joe back there, no?
He left.
Yeah, he left, okay. Colleen, do you have anything you want to cover? Okay. Remarks from the floor, comments from the floor. Any comments?
Naturally. Okay.
Tom Ratcliffe. A couple of things. The first thing is, last month I had asked if we could look at the website and make it a little bit more user-friendly. I want to thank you. It's greatly improved from last month that I asked. Still seems to be a little work in progress, but it's far cry better than before, so thank you.
Yes, indeed, and there will be more exciting features coming. So Shannon and I will be working on that. She's been having her plate full with the CNR amendment rollouts and so forth, but we look for that to continue to improve as we move forward.
Thank you. The next one is, and I attended one of the sessions on the amendment, which I thought was very well done. And in that session, Greg, you had mentioned that on how we're getting out the vote, how we're going to be doing it electronically and so forth. But you also touched on the ability to proxy. And since last year, I haven't heard anything, so I don't know if we've improved that process. Or if we're going to attempt to do something differently. It's an ideal time, because right now, it's very complicated, number one. Number two, as you're probably aware, it requires, if you get an electronic vote, you have to make a phone call, I think to Shannon here, and get a paper ballot mailed to you. And then once you get it, then you fill out your proxy thing, and then you would probably give it or mail it to somebody that's actually going to vote it. Very complicated, time-consuming. So I ask that we look at that.
Well, we unfortunately, we don't have a better process for proxies. We will be talking about this tomorrow. We have an election committee meeting, and that's one of the topics I was going to bring up, just to make sure we understood how it was going to happen. But the proxies are a little kludgy, because you've got electronics, but then after the proxy, then you got to get all the signatures and all of that. And then right now, about the only way we've been told we can do it is really by what we're doing today, and that's sending out a paper ballot.
Okay.
In order to control and make sure that only one vote on that property. That's
Right.
really the thing. So we'll talk about it. If there's some improvements that we could do, we're certainly open to them.
Well, and Greg, I appreciate that, and it's good. I would have liked them to really go in depth, the election committee last year, but it was kind of pushed by the wayside. But I'm hopeful now, since the board has interest in getting
Yeah,
the vote.
yeah.
Last thing is, Dan yesterday made a very compelling and good proposal on roads, and made the suggestion as far as charging a fee to homeowners to build a fund for the road improvements. And we all know that that's been something that I've been on the list. I think strategic plan, when a lot of the surveys were done, that came up fairly highly, and that hasn't necessarily been addressed. I'd like to just throw out to the board for consideration, and that is, so you have right now the amenity fee, $5,000. We've talked about it before. I understand your point, what you made, that it can't be a percentage because it's not legal, because it's called an amenity fee. Let's be clear about that. So my suggestion that maybe you might consider is, and including Dan's suggestion here, is call it something completely different, because that has a bearing on it. Make it a percentage, and then earmark where the funds are going to go, and they could go for amenities, they could go for roads. And it does a number of things. The first thing it does automatically is you don't really have to worry about adjusting it every year, because inflation will take care of that in the home prices. You just set the percentage. So that's number one. And then it provides the allocation, not just for the amenities, but something that the members have talked about for a long time, and that's the roads, and allows the funds to be accumulated. So I'd ask you to think about that. Thank you.
And obviously, we haven't taken action since we just heard about the suggestion yesterday. But yeah, we're going to look into that, okay?
Isn't that called a wheel tax?
Pardon me?
Wheel tax?
Well, I have to look at it, okay? Any other comments from the floor? Okay, Steve, we'll let you go. Phil, you're going to be next.
Steve Ballou, St. George Drive. It's mainly about the sidewalks in certain areas, not everywhere in the Glade, but in certain areas, high traffic areas. St. George Drive from Peavine down to Brighton is a lot of foot traffic on that road. Unfortunately, there's a whole lot of construction traffic on that road, just like on Westchester. But that particular area right there is one of the original homes that were put on into Fairfield Glade. Yesterday, I watched a lady walking down St. George, no shoulders. Big truck came along, hit one of our man-made potholes, which is where they put in the shut-off valves for the water lines. And they sunk into the ground there, and it makes a loud bang when construction trucks hit it. And so she jumped into the ditch because there is no shoulder. I put a 36-inch shoulder in front of my house, which seems to help them right there. But you've also got a sidewalk which was put in below road level right there across Spring Lake Dam, which needs to be brought up to, or maybe just a little bit above, with some kind of reflectors to keep people from driving in the lake. Because it's in a curve, and if you're not paying attention, people drive right into it. So just an area I'd like to look at and see what we can do. We don't need to put them on the whole thing, because you get farther out St. George and Westchester and all those roads, there's no people out there. Lakeview's the same way. We just need to look at, put some kind of sidewalks out there, because there's a lot of foot traffic with a lot of heavy construction equipment moving down the same road and no place to get out of the way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, wait, Phil, you're first.
Yeah.
Oh, Phil, you're letting everybody go, huh?
All right. Thank you. I'm Phil Smith. I live at 144 Hickory Ridge Lane here in Fairfield Glade. And I'm the president of the Veterans and First Responders Memorial here at Fairfield Glade. And then in addition, I'm the Cumberland County East representative on the board of directors for Volunteer Energy Cooperative. So I want to just briefly talk about both of those things. First, the Veterans and First Responders Memorial. All of you have been very patient. You've watched the progress that we're making. We started doing this just about 6 years ago when it was a concept. But we're making good progress now, and if you'll notice that right now they're at the point where they're installing crab orchard stone on the block walls that have been a part of the design. And we're using crab orchard stone because of the quality, because of the significance that represents to our area as it's produced in this area. It has a worldwide reputation. And so we felt like it's worth the additional investment, because our approach all along on this memorial has been three things that really count. One is the quality of design, one is the quality of materials, and three is the quality of workmanship. And we've tried to stay true to all three of those standards, because when this is done, it's going to be something that's going to last for generations. And it's going to be something that can last for a long time, with other groups that will be moving in here in the future. And I think it's important that we try to judge and evaluate these things in the context of the future, not the present. That's important, but we're really building this for the future, and we want it to be a place that future people that visit us, that live here, will take pride in this memorial, as we try to honor and do honor those men and women who have served us in various capacities. So we're pleased with that. We think that the flagstone, or the stonework will be finished sometime next month, and that following that will be the installation of the flag poles. We have those. We've had those for quite a while. And then after that, we'll have to install the lights, and we have the lights. And the conduit work and all that has been done, so that's a matter of installation. So we feel sometime this summer it will be done, and we'll schedule some kind of a ceremony of dedication when we reach that point. The other thing on this is that we're going to meet with our architect next month, Michael Verzin out of Knoxville. He did the initial design on that, and he's done some other work here for the club. And we're going to start getting the specifics put together on the second phase of the memorial. Those of you that have followed the conceptual plan and seen the pictures and the drawings, we're going to follow that, but now it's going to have to go from a concept to an actual plan. And so we'll start working on that in May. And as soon as we have something definitive, we will share it with you, we will share it with the community, we'll do a town hall meeting and talk about that. But The first part of the memorial, as you know, is a flag plaza, and that is focused on honoring individuals. The second phase will be focused on events. And so, and all of it will tie together thematically, we think, and it'll also provide opportunities for growth. The final thing on this is that we have the initial installation of the pavers is done, but we are continuing to take orders, and we will continue to take orders until May 1st. And once that date comes, then we're going to stop processing them until we get ready to finish the construction. So we've got temporary pavers in there now that we can remove, put in the ones that are remaining, and then we'll set it and seal it. Now, in the future, we will be able to go in and add new pavers to it, but because that's a complicated process, and we're just only going to do that once a year. And we'll make plenty of announcements so people have a lot of warning that as they move in, they'd like to participate in that, they'll be able to do that. So that's, if you have any questions about that, comments, yeah, I could move on.
Just, really, I encourage everyone to go over and see what's going on over there. It's really taking shape. And Phil, I know it's been a long draw for that committee and you, but it's really starting to look like something that's going to be very special.
Thank you. Yeah.
Phil, how do we order the pavers?
You can do it online at our website. It's the best way to do it. The Veterans and First Responders Memorial at Fairfield Glade. You can just Google that and it'll come up.
Okay.
And then you can do that all online. The cost is $150. Each paver is, you can have 3 lines, and you have 15 letters per line, and you can pretty much design that to honor the individual that you would choose to do so. One other thing I will make before I move on, and this is just a suggestion, that we, from the very beginning, we were not going to ask the club for any financial support, and we're remaining true to that. We've raised the money privately for the most part. We did get a substantial grant from the state of Tennessee, $250,000, which has enabled us to do a lot of the added features. And we're going to continue with that commitment. But one thing that would be helpful, if you would take into consideration that walkway between Robin Hood Park, the pavilion area that connects the bocce ball court and connects the memorial. There is a gravel path there. And I would recommend that you look at putting a hard surface on that in the future, because once that starts to get traffic, it's going to represent an obstacle to some people who have mobility issues, and they might have a difficult time navigating that. And I would suggest that you look at various ways to do that. And I think that that's not something that needs to be done this year, but I think next year, when we start seeing more traffic there, that would help us. So that said, I'll move on just quickly on the VEC. First thing is that the annual meeting for the Volunteer Energy Cooperative has always been in Decatur, Tennessee. Decatur is the headquarters of it. That's where Volunteer Energy was first formed back in the 1930s. In fact, I learned this just recently, but Volunteer Energy Co-op was the first co-op in the country to get a loan from the Rural Electrification Administration back during that period of time when they're coming out of the Great Depression and so forth. So there's a lot of history there. But this year, they're going to move the annual meeting to Crossville, and it's going to be October 7th. It'll be at Stone Memorial High School. And those are really pretty nice events. There are a lot of prizes and information, a lot of exhibits, sharing with the co-op story and what happens with electricity and all that stuff. So we'll announce more about that later, but I just put that on the calendar. That's October 7th and Saturday morning. We've also, this month, we had a meeting with, I set up a meeting with Bruce Evans and Kevin Hembry, the general manager for the Crossville Monterey office for VC, and to make sure that we're in close coordination with what's going on here in the club. VC looks at this as a key growth area, and we just want to be sensitive to the future plans. I know that it's hard to look that far out, but VC has to go in a long-term planning process. If we're going to add new substations, we're going to add new features, it can take years. Right now, anywhere it takes about 5 years to get a new substation online. So that process always has to be, they have to be thinking far out. So it's important for us to work with individuals like Bruce and with the club and other people to get a sense on what your growth areas are going to be, what your priorities are. And VC wants to very much be an integral part of any planning that goes on as far as infrastructure enhancements in the Fairfield Glade as well as other parts of the county. Because water, sewer, sanitation, all those things are important, and are important to the development of this community that we're so proud of. And we want to continue to grow, but we've got to keep looking at the future and the things that we need to do, because decisions that we make today are going to affect us 5-10 years from now. And you just have to keep that in mind. And that's where VC is going. We've got a year ago, we approved a $250 million plan to upgrade the equipment and facilities, and we're well into that now. Fairfield Glade has been the recipient of a lot of that. The first thing that we did in this last year was upgrade the lines between the substation on Peavine and going out to Good Shepherd or Good Sam's. And so, because that is, when electricity goes out, places like nursing homes, hospitals, they're first in line to get restoration because of the critical public services, health issues that are associated with it. So anyway, the final comment on that is that I know people get frustrated when electricity goes out. I do, everybody does. But that's almost inevitable in an area where, especially in a treed area like this. But one of the things that they're doing is constantly trying to improve the grid, try to make it safer, more reliable, and they've been doing that. And when we have outages due to the extreme weather, cold weather, they learn a lot from that. They learn what the weak points are in the grid. And then they go in and immediately start repairing those, start upgrading that, whether it's switches or whatever it might be. They will get that on a priority list. So every time that happens, they will make improvements following that, so that the number one goal of VEC is reliability. Affordability is important, you got to do those things too, but even more important is reliability. And so I've learned since I've been on the board that does govern a lot of the decision making that goes on, and a lot of the investments that go on. So with that, I went longer than 3 minutes, but thank you for being patient.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the floor? If not, board comments.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment on the first responders, veterans and first responders. If you haven't been down there and seen the progress, it's really impressive. And I would encourage you to look into getting one of the pavers, the bricks. The layout of them are beautiful, and if not for yourself, for a family member or somebody you know, because it really is impressive. And what an addition to our community as this moves along. It's gorgeous down there.
You want to talk about the fence policy? The
Say
fence
again?
fence policy?
I don't have, it's not mine.
Okay. We talked about a fence policy. It's going to be posted till the next meeting So I encourage you to get on there. There's some changes in there that you ought to be looking at, so that we can have this thing posted and people will try to get a vote on it next month. So I encourage you to take a look at it, make sure you read it. If you have questions, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions. So you can mail them in and certainly let us know what you think. Another area I wanted to talk about is we're going to see some changes to be made in our meeting protocols. And the reason why we're trying to do it is to be much more efficient with our meetings and make sure that people do get a chance to make their comments and that in fact they can interact with the board. There'll be some meeting protocols that are going to be different for the workshop, but I want to go into what's going to happen here starting at the May meeting so that people don't get surprised when you walk in here. And we'll do a separate one for the board workshop. We're going to move to a protocol that basically says everyone who's going to be talking on a topic will be limited to 3 minutes. And we're going to hold on to the 3-minute rule so that people don't go on for a long time, because I know you're trying to get your point across, but we're going to have to try to get that down into a 3-minute segment. What we're going to do is we're going to open it up. We're going to change the agenda. It's our plan right now that for the board meetings, when you get the agenda this time, and we're going to try to get it out sooner than what we're doing now. In other words, sooner than what we're putting it in, so you have more days to look at it. But the idea is going to be for each agenda item, we'll put down a sentence or two so you have a context of what that item is about. So you don't just get a title and it says governance and you don't understand what that's going to be. So we're going to try to put things down so that you can understand what that is. And then we're going to have 2 question and answer sessions. One will be at the very beginning of the meeting before we even get into the agenda items, but we'll run down the agenda so make sure everyone understands what those topics are, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions then. Then at the very end of the meeting, just like we do today, we'll have member comments or questions at that point. So there'll be 2 opportunities, but what we're trying to do is, especially in the middle, is try to move through the business of the board that needs to get done so the motions can get made and we're efficient with that. Now, that's going to start in May, and I want to make sure everyone understands what that is. And it'll be a little kludgy, I understand that at first, but we're going to actually keep time, and you'll be notified when you got a minute left. So please keep that in mind, and it will start, like I said, at the May board meeting. Are there any other comments?
Greg, do you want to talk about the workshop format?
Well, I wasn't going to do that today, because we'll cover that at the workshop.
Yeah.
I think is most appropriate. I can go through it real quickly. The workshop is going to be a little bit different from the standpoint that we're still going to have questions at the beginning and the end, but you will have an opportunity to ask some questions during the time that we're going through that. It's a little bit more informal type of thing, but we still need to get through the workshop. And what we're going to do with the agenda there is we are going to expand the agenda to include many of the things that we talk about in the afternoon. Now, what that means, we'll give you an opportunity at the very beginning of the meeting to ask questions. And the same thing we will do is we'll have a context with them, pretty much like we're planning on doing with the regular board meeting. And what that means is we'll have a couple sentences of what each one of those topics mean. So again, if we're talking about something, you have an idea of what the topic is so that you can ask an intelligent question about what's going on. And that'll be also in the information we send out to the community for the workshop agenda. But then it's going to follow pretty much what we talked about. We're also looking at possibly, and we'll be talking more about this internally, but we're looking at maybe having an SMT make a presentation. We did that before. We got very good comments on that, and we may try to add an SMT to each meeting, or somebody else. It could be FGRS, it could be the Memorial Committee, it could be a lot of other things that we might want to have somebody come in and just for that session kind of talk to the community about what they're up to and the things that are happening. We think that there's going to be an opportunity. We tried some of these, and and we need to get more centered on them, but we think there's some opportunities to do what we call educational things. And by that, what I mean is like we had, if you remember Jonathan Goodman, he came in and did kind of how sewer fees are put together, where the sewer money goes and how it gets there. We did some presentations on your assessments and what they mean and how they're built and the components that are made up of that, and how there's only 25% of the POA assessments that can go to capital. We're going to look at other educational opportunities to keep the community informed and educated about where your money's going and what's going on. So that should be helpful. And I think that's really the main things that we're going to be doing. Now, we'll have a more formal conversation at the workshop meeting, and we'll tell you exactly how it's going to run, but we'll do that at the beginning of the May workshop meeting.
Yeah.
But those two meetings are going to change quite a bit. And we are very interested in getting comments and questions from the community. That's not changing. But we are going to limit it because we have things that we do need to get through, and the 3-minute warning or 3-minute time limit will be in effect. Anything?
Can I just,
Yeah.
you talked about the workshop agenda. One of the things we're going to do, we talk about the executive session, we have the workshop, and not really knowing what we're talking about. One of the purposes of the workshop will now be, we're going to tell you what we'll be talking about in the afternoon or after the open session, so that you're aware of what kind of dialogue and conversation we're going to have. And then during the morning session, I'll give you an opportunity if you want to provide some input that we need to take into some of those dialogue and discussions.
Yeah.
We won't put everything on there because there's some that are HR related or individual member related, but the big topics that we're going to debate and discuss in the afternoon, we're going to let you know what those are so that you can provide input in the morning in the workshop.
Yeah. Okay.
Before we leave, I apologize for dropping the ball on the fence policy. I got too excited about the memorial. The fence policy will go up with revisions, and it's for clarification because we had some issues with understanding some changes and modifications in it. So there'll be a red-line version being posted with diagrams. A lot of it is clarification of language to remove some of the confusion. And it's several pages, but it's worth looking into about the fences. So it'll be posted for at least a 30-day review, and we'll revisit it in May at the May meeting for any comments that you want to send on that policy.
All right.
So, fascinating reading, believe me.
Okay, so we're going to get a movement to move. We're going to get a motion to adjourn here in a second, but I'm going to remind everyone, we're going to take about a 10-minute break or so. Then we will come back. We'll have the presentation on Druid Hills and the financing and the cost of that. Then second, we'll have Scott with the strategic plan to go through that roadmap so you get an understanding of what we're doing there. And then the third piece will be the question and answers for the amendment, okay, the CNR amendment. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll start at about 10:15, okay? Okay. So, first up.
There's the clicker.
Well, that's all, without a clicker, we're in trouble. So, the first presentation is going to be Druid Hills Clubhouse construction costs and all of that, so, okay, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. We'll head right into the first slide. What I want you to understand is this is the total projected. Oh, I'm not coming, thank you. This is the total projected. This is not actual. Some of it is, some of it isn't. These are all the phases of the project that have been identified for this year. The pre-planning and feasibility was conducted a couple years ago, and that's when we did the soil borings for rock, surveying the land plan, evaluation of the existing clubhouse, and also the PCA food and beverage survey where we had solid definition of what those requirements were going to be for the new clubhouse. Phase 1, and I would invite all of you to go up to Druid Hills and play the quarry because it's fun. And the driving range design and construction was during that phase. Phase 2 was the performance center design and construction, and phase 3 is the clubhouse construction. Now let me explain to you the two columns of numbers. Under the projected column, that's the money that you saw submitted in capital authorization requests. So that was what we identified as a budgeted amount. Because these first three things have been completed, the pre-planning, the phase 1 and phase 2, those are actual costs, actual to date. So if you look at those numbers, the pre-planning, phase 1 and phase 2 are $79,596 under what was the projected budget. So we're actually coming in under. What's being projected for the clubhouse is $16,662,882. So that's what we're projecting. We don't have any actual numbers because we haven't started the construction yet. Can we hold questions to the end, please, Tom? I can go back on the slide. Okay. Okay, to date, we have completed some of the work on the clubhouse. The architectural services, that's for all of the design plans and then into the mechanicals and engineering plans. The temporary pro shop, the pro shop utilities and furnishings, the food truck. A contingency was built into several of these projects and the site prep for the temporary pro shop, plus the demolition of the old clubhouse. Again, you've got the projected amounts, which was what was included in the capital authorization request and what's been actually spent. All total, $898,694.04, which is, again, under budget, $193,405.96. So, and this is all the work that's been completed to date. Now we get into the unknown. These are, you're just going to see projected costs here yet because, as you well know, construction hasn't started yet. The general contractor's contract is $14,848,208, and that includes the insurance permit fees, site work, including the parking lots, and the fixtures, furniture, and equipment for the kitchen, except the dishwasher, which has been noted will be leased, plus a $200 contingency. The construction contract has been signed, and as Bill and Greg both announced, you'll start seeing things happening soon. Additionally, these items here are the owner's responsibility as part of the total project, the clubhouse project. We purchased Lot 138, which is that lot just to the west of the clubhouse and where you see the start of houses going west down Lakeview. It was purchased to accommodate the laying of utilities and irrigation lines so as to prevent their installation under asphalt or concrete, which would make the job twice as expensive if you needed to do repairs. The contractor's trailer will also be located at this house, which the lot, which will prevent it needing to be moved throughout the construction site during construction or needing to take up parking lot spaces. So this way it can be pretty well permanently stationed there. Because again, every time you have to move one of those trailers, it's an additional cost. FF&E is the tables, chairs, doorknobs, those kind of things, not kitchen equipment. The IT package includes security cameras, access control to the building, the point of sale, so that you get your bills when you eat, audio-visual systems. Landscaping will be the finishing work outside of the building itself, the clubhouse and the parking lot. And again, we have the owner section, an additional contingency fee of $100,000, plus the balance of architectural fees. The architect stays with the project until it is completed, so we continue to pay him for his services. Looking at the total projected amount, we've got $15,764,188, and who can tell me where they've seen that number before? Right. Last March, it was the car that the board approved for the clubhouse construction. I'm sorry?
Where's the line item for kitchen equipment?
That's in the contractor's contract fee. Okay, and back to giving you the total projected number for the clubhouse. We've got the work completed to date, the construction contract, and those items that I listed on the previous slide that were the owner's responsibility for the $60,662,882. Now, I know some of you wanted to see the comparison between the estimate that was given last July and what we're projecting for costs. What I did was a like comparison, so not everything that you saw on previous slides is going to show up on this slide. Sometimes it's because some of those costs haven't been anticipated in estimates. So if you look at the clubhouse A&E designed through FF&E purchasing and move-in, the number that I put for April of this year also includes the estimated costs that I showed you for architectural fees to finish the project. So it's actual paid to date plus what he's projecting through the finish of the clubhouse bill. So looking at those numbers, the last year, what Bruce Cox presented estimated that those fees would be $450,000, and what we're projecting, because remember that has some actual and some projected, is $468,455. The temporary pro shop came in under the $282,000 that was projected. The food truck was over budget, and a lot of that was modifications that had to be made to the truck in order to meet the health department inspection standards. Demolition of the clubhouse, again, came under. So what was presented for these items in July of last year was $1,047,000, and what we've spent so far, and plus the architectural fees projected to the end of the clubhouse build, is $961,898, which is about $85,102 under what was projected in July. So again, numbers are real close. Okay. With the clubhouse construction, items that are included in the contractor's contract fee, the $14 million, the insurance and permit fees and other fees, the clubhouse FF&E was estimated at $1.5 million in July, but part of that amount is included in the contractor's contract fee. So what we will be paying for FF&E, the tables, chairs, doorknobs, those kinds of things, is $223,475. Site work, again, that was listed as a separate item last year, and that's included in the contractor's fee. Testing services and total project contingencies. If you look at the bottom lines there, the $15,000 is for this page. The very bottom line are the total costs, like costs between July of last year and what we're projecting for this year. And Bruce had $16,237,000, and adding up all these like items is $16,344,653. So you can see that the estimating that was done, looking at what the project costs were going to be, was very close to what we're seeing this year. And that's what I just said. It was highly predictive of what total costs were going to be. Groundbreaking and completion summer, early fall of 2026. So now I will take questions.
Back up one slide.
Sure.
On the total, the second column.
Yeah.
Could you change that 16,344 to 16,344? You got a period in there.
Oh, okay. I'll do that. Thank you, Nico. Bruce.
Mary, is there any design changes between the design that was presented back in June and the design that's in the current project?
We rehearsed this. One of the things that did come out was the movable wall. And I was always an advocate of having the movable wall.
Movable wall where?
In the dining area of the clubhouse. Do you remember on the design that it was kind of a dotted line and could be deployed or not deployed? I tell you at the beginning, I was a huge advocate. However, even I became convinced that it was not going to give us what we had designed for the requirements, because the wall does not go all the way up to the ceiling. So noise would still be an issue in that area. One of the things that we do have are the weather enclosures for the patio, and I would suggest that you'd probably have a lot quieter space with the enclosures down out on the patio than trying to have a private party in that room where the movable wall would have been. This also gives more flexibility as far as rearranging the dining room if they want to have live entertainment, or if there's a private party there and you want to have a buffet out in the dining room. So I don't really see that as a loss, but as an improvement in our customer experience. Any other questions? Oh.
Greg, I have a procedural question only. Back when you set up the procedures for this, subcommittees like food and beverage and golf would make a recommendation to the steering committee would make that recommendation to the board, and the board would approve it. Did that process occur when the changes in the design occurred this time?
The quick answer to that is yes. I'm going to get the mic around to people because people that are streaming can't hear it.
Hi, what is the rationale for changing the contingency amount?
The contingencies are embedded, the construction contingency is embedded in the contract cost, and the contractor felt that the 200,000 would be sufficient. When you see additional, the 271,000 contingency, those are multiple capital authorization requests, and every time that one of those gets submitted, we build a contingency into that. So that's really a cumulative contingency amount.
Excuse me. Could you explain a little bit what are testing services for $40,000?
I'm going to give that question to our project manager, Greg. He's the expert on construction.
The testing services are required during the construction of this type. We have to go to an outside source, and we have core samples of concrete, earth pack, and stuff like that. And it covers the prices of the outside agency doing those tests.
So, like, have you done enough testing to know that you're not going to hit, like, bedrock or solid rock that it's going to be more expensive to remove or anything?
For the core that they done a couple years ago, I guarantee they're going to hit rock. So that's part of that contingency that they built into their contract.
The testing you're referring to, Greg, is actual life.
Bill, can you speak?
That testing is, if I make sure I'm not mistaken or understood you correctly, is like testing of the concrete to make sure that it's to the specs that are required per code and that it's actually being built. So it's an outside third-party verifying that the GC is building it to required specifications.
Mary Kay, could we go back to the first slide and then go through each slide and see if there are questions? Because there's too much, it's trying to remember what was on there. Is this the first slide? Oh, no, you can skip the first one, second one.
You don't get to hold on to it forever. Okay.
Front row.
Forgive me if I missed it, but where is the parking lot captured? The repaved parking lot, the striping and all that?
That's in the construction contract.
Okay, that's why I was missing a second.
Yeah.
Second thing is, really, what doesn't this include? Is this turnkey projection?
I'd say pretty much it's turnkey.
Yes, that's the intention. Okay.
It's not on this page, but is the plan still to have that game simulator room in the front of the building over to, yeah. So it is still going to be used for that, game simulators?
Yes, there is a separate room.
Yeah, I know.
And it has a door, but yeah.
So tell me, what are these game simulators? Are these for children or?
Kids of all ages.
Yeah.
They're very.
Isn't that something that could be at the center instead of at?
It could, but there was a desire to do this at the clubhouse, and they are very popular. There are other facilities, clubs around the country that these are embraced and are quite well supported. So.
I don't know. Just go on record as saying, I don't think so, but.
Well,
Okay.
it's not required to use them.
Well, I know, but I think it's a
But-
waste of space.
Okay, well,
Could you back up to where we were before? We're at 18 million, back up another one, right there.
Yep.
18,454,000. Okay, so that is the
Total-
the money that we're going to spend.
Everything at Druid. That's
Right.
the driving range, the performance center, the quarry, and the clubhouse.
Okay, so has Jason had an opportunity to do a projection on what the interest would be added to that total, so we can get that?
Yeah, Jason's
Oh,
next.
okay. Jason, I got you. We're watching that.
So a couple things, just, I'm gonna go on record like Jeannie. There was nothing that I saw in the surveys that said the people wanted this. They wanted card rooms and stuff like that, but they didn't want this. Yes, the architect put it in, but just for the record. Okay. My question just on this slide, again, so that I'm clear, when you say projection, or projected,
Yep.
that projected was not Bruce Cox's presentation last year.
No, that was an estimate.
It was?
Yeah,
Okay.
projected
All right, just so
estimate.
I'm clear. Okay. I don't remember that.
And Tom, you need to remember, that's a total project cost. What Bruce was presenting was the clubhouse. Yeah.
I'm going to back up what these other two people said. I think that putting in the simulator is an absolute waste of space. You need a private, dedicated room that is closed off from noise from the rest for private parties, for wine dinners. I think it would be much more useful than wasting that valuable space on simulator games. We don't have a lot of kids here. This is an older community, not kids. I think it's a waste of funds. I think you're going to find that in a year's time, you're going to say it's a waste, and you're going to pull it out, and we're going to have wasted $130,000.
Okay. For those of you, the game area is not for kids. Trust me, I have been to clubs. When the next time the Bobby Jones Lynx guys are in here, ask them about the clubs where they have them. People line up. You can play golf, you can play soccer, you can play baseball, you can, all kinds of games. And trust me, the adults sitting around the bar will eventually meander over to the game area and spend a ton of money not only playing the game, but imbibing. It's a moneymaker for every club it's been put in.
So there's a cost to play the game?
No, there's no cost to play the game, but what it brings is F&B generation.
Hello, I would like to speak to that too, because I know that you think it's a kid's game, but it's not. It's an accessibility issue. So a golf simulator is doing for the golf what a golf cart did for golf, 50 years ago. It's allowing everyone to play. You don't have to get out, it's not intimidating. So it is a driving force. It's a huge revenue driver in all the clubs today. Anybody who's doing a clubhouse renovation, they're putting these in. So not to put this in puts us behind the times. So I appreciate you standing up here and putting it in. Oh, sorry.
I'll add one more piece. The current simulator that we had here actually generated more funds. It got actually paid off about 2 years earlier than anticipated. So it's very difficult. It was very difficult to get in here because unless you knew it was there, you wouldn't come. So over here, we're going to have a much better opportunity to capture, as Bruce and several others have said, Jessica, to capture that money and get that food and beverage revenue. So it really does pay for itself.
I'm not worried about the cost. As Ted said, there were a lot of people who wanted an area that they could play cards or games or whatever, or have family come in and have a little area. It isn't that I think simulators are so awful. It's that I think there was a bigger call to have an area like that.
Well, Let me address part of that too, because I hear what you're saying. We certainly got a lot of comments about common areas where people can play cards. Everything doesn't have to be, nor will it be, in this building, okay? This is one of the projects we got on. We do understand the need about places for people to play cards and meet and gather and that type of thing. But it doesn't all have to be in the Druid Hills Clubhouse. So as we roll out the 10-year plan, we have markers in there to take a look at some of that. And the other piece of that is we're still in discussion about what Stonehenge becomes after this. That very well could turn into some place where you do private dining. One of the things that we looked at here is that this is a clubhouse, and as a clubhouse, it's not going to be a nice, quiet place. So if you're thinking you're going to go over there and have a nice private dinner and not be bothered by people walking in and out, people running around, packages, having a good time, yeah, that's not going to be the environment that you're going to have for a nice private dining. So we're going to look at some options about, and we need to talk about what's going to happen with Stonehenge, what's going to happen over there. There's been a lot of ideas, but that's more likely a kind of place where members can meet and have a more quiet, intimate kind of thing. Okay?
We used to have the Fireside Lounge at Druid. Are we going to have anything like that at our new Druid?
No. There'll be a 20-seat bar if you want to enjoy life at the bar. But it's going to be more of a large venue. There's 244 seats counting inside and the veranda seating. So the whole point is play a round of golf, meet your golfers up there and linger and enjoy yourselves.
Anybody else?
Pardon me?
Jason's up.
Yep, Jason's up.
You're up.
They're done picking on MK. You're up.
I'll stick around and move the mic around.
I think Nico and I are becoming friends. So now comes the financing piece. I touched a little bit on this earlier, but one of the charges that I had from the board was to go out and get the best option for financing for the clubhouse. And so we scoured our current relationships and also some of the national relationships that I had previously to get the best deal that we possibly could. We feel, based on the loan package that we approved and was delivered to us, that we did the best deal that we possibly could under the current environment. Interest rates are high, as everyone knows. They are historically been low because of COVID. I don't think we're going to see that again for quite some time. But under the current circumstances, I think we got probably one of the best deals that we could probably get. We leveraged our relationship with Smart Bank. We have a large deposit relationship with them. They took that into consideration, and also the length of time that we have with Smart Bank. And they delivered a loan package to us that we found acceptable, not only now, but 8 years from now, 10 years from now, should this loan go to maturation. This is still a loan that we feel is relevant going forward. So this loan, as we talked earlier, is in two phases. We have a construction phase, which is our interest-only period. This is where we will do draws based on invoices from J&G and Vic, the architect. Greg Repo will be involved in terms of this piece as well. As we receive invoices, we have 20 days to pay them. They go through an approval process through the bank. This is the high watermark of what we feel the construction loan is going to be. This is for the entire term, which goes into 2026. So we have a $16 million construction loan, interest only. Term is 18 months. We're going to take that full term so we can capitalize on just paying interest as long as possible. They've given us approval. Even though we may have the CO at month 16, we're still going to take the full 18 months to pay the interest only period. The interest is based on the drawn amount in arrears. So if we have $1 million in the first month, we'll pay the 6.82% the next month based on the previous month's draw. The rate is the overnight offering rate, which you can look up, plus 2.49%, which as of today, as I mentioned earlier, is 6.82%. And we anticipate through 25, based on actually construction is starting mobilization as we speak, we anticipate drawing down approximately $10 million for 2020. As I mentioned earlier, that's approximately $281,000 for interest for 25. And then we will draw $6 million in 26. This is the estimated draw schedule timeline. I did it in 3-month tranches. The first one is mobilization, phase 1 of construction. We estimate $2.5 million to be drawn out in this period. Beginning in August through October, this is where the bulk of the framing and heavy construction will take place. We estimate a cumulative drawdown by that period of $6 million. And then through December, we anticipate drawing down an additional $4 million, which will give us a full $10 million, as we mentioned earlier, for 2025. This could change up or down, but we feel this a good estimate based on the draw schedules that we have seen previously. This rolls us into the permanent financing after the end of the 18-month period, interest only. We go into permanent financing. This is, again, based on an estimate of a full loan amount of $16 million. Term is 84 months. That's where the bank has us committed for 84 months. The payment is principal and interest based, again, on the 6.82% that I mentioned earlier. And our amortization on this loan is 20 years. This is the highest that we could get in terms of amortization, which keeps our payments at a minimum. But still, it is based on, again, on the $16 million. We won't know exactly what our payment and P&I is going to be until we negotiate at the end of what we have actually spent on the clubhouse. So this is just for the clubhouse. This is not a loan that's going to encompass any other areas, phase 1, 2, or 3. This is just for our clubhouse financing. Are there any questions?
Do we plan on trying to pay it off early like we did here and save a lot of money?
So that's one of the ideas that we have is for a successful relationship with the bank is we do have options. We can pay it off early should we choose to do so, but I wanted to make sure that we had the highest and best possible actions on our part if we needed to take the loan to full term, but we can pay it off early if need be. Refinance to capture lower rates. We have a lot of options.
Good.
So Jason, now that we know it's going to be the $16 million on the loan, if you fold that into the whole capital plan, the reserve study, all those numbers, and then did your projections, does it appear within the next few years that we would have to borrow money? That's question number one. And would we have the capacity? Question number two. And I ask those questions because if it doesn't tie to our capital plan, and I know this is, Greg, a doomsday thing, the board can come through with a special assessment. Wait. However, this amenity, they can't come through with a special assessment based on, well, they can, but chances of getting it based on the current state law are null and it's never going to happen. So I want to know how that fits. And, so are we going to anticipate a special assessment down the road?
So your first question is this already been accounted for in the capital plan?
Yes.
Yes, it has. So if I don't know when Jonathan did the capital plan.
It was May was when we first presented it last year.
So for 25, he did have 10 million listed in there and then a draw of 13.3 million for the loan.
It fits with the other expenditures, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it fits in with everything we've said in May and in July.
You had a second question too. Your second question was?
Well, you just answered it. It fits in with the capital.
It is, yeah. We don't anticipate this putting us in a situation that is not unknown. This is a known situation. It was in the capital. It was presented, and we were lockstep in what was presented earlier.
Does it take our total loan capacity? Is our loan capacity, that was the other part of the question, loan capacity?
We have substantial amount of room for loan capacity. Yep.
Could you back up one slide? Okay, for the rate, is it 6.82 or is it 6.82 plus 2.49 for the interest?
The 6.82 is total rate. It's the
Okay.
overnight offering rate plus 2.49. In the Wall Street Journal,
Mhm.
the offering rate, so it
Okay.
is published weekly. We will capture monthly. 6.82 is the current rate. Is
Mhm. I've heard some comments, and I think they're more than just rumors, that that the finance committee came up with a proposal that we were going to take a lot of our existing capital and we were only going to borrow something in the range of $2 million. And that as we collected money, we would then put the money back into the capital reserves and operating and stuff like that. So is this exactly what we're going to do? And
This
we
is
don't
what
have
we're
to
gonna
worry
do.
about
Right.
all these other comments or rumors?
No, we're not depleting our funds. Should we get into a situation later that we are in an emergency situation, it's available, but we're not depleting our cash to pay this down.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think.
Other questions? Yeah, I am. I'm getting my work out there.
Jason, you mentioned earlier about the debt service reserve we currently have.
Yes, sir.
There's like $1.2 million, I think, in there today.
$1,250,000.
Yeah. Do you intend to, between this project and the fire station, EMS station, are you going to draw that down?
Yes, sir.
As you do that?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
To minimize the borrowing? Okay. That was the intent of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna utilize all aspects of what's been done in the past. The debt service fund, we will extinguish, and then we will, as I said, in 2028, that will be budgeting payments.
Other questions?
Which way?
Hold on.
Got it.
No. Okay.
I just want, I do want to compliment you on what you were able to do with maneuvering the interest that we're making on it, because it eliminates something that would have to be in the budget, and that's the interest expense for that next couple of years, but it'll be offset by the revenue, so it shouldn't have an effect on our dues.
It doesn't. Thank you.
Any other questions? Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have Scott with the strategic plan.
Okay. So we've been talking about this for a while. I just want to kind of go over the process. We had PCA in a while back, Strategic Planning Committee did an extensive review of all the items that were proposed, ideas, PCA, ideas, the board, and put together the strategic plan time back in fourth quarter of last year. So the next steps were we needed to start the process of building a roadmap, identifying initiatives and things that would go on that roadmap. The Strategic Planning Committee, along with Monica Heisel and I and Mary Kay, met with the senior management team, did a workshop, 2-day workshop, talked about the different initiatives and things that were going on. The board then took that, and we've had quite a bit of conversation on where do you place these things and the timing of various things. So I'm going to walk through some of this. I'm not going to walk through detail of all the items. We'll post this, and we're working on descriptions of each of the items.
I want to remind you, in the strategic plan, we've got 7 imperatives, right? So imperative 1 was governance, management, and human resources. So when you look at a roadmap and a strategic, first thing I think of is I start looking out 3 to 10 years or 5 to 10 years. But as we did the process, we found some things that were more near-term and operational, so we wanted to incorporate those into the overall plan as well. And some of the things don't appear on the roadmap that were initial recommendation. We've done them. One of them was hire a good GMO or GM, COO. We got the best we could. A responsibility matrix. That's one of the things, the big conversation. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about what are the responsibilities of a board member, what are the responsibilities of the GM, COO, the responsibilities of the senior management team. So we did a lot of discussion yesterday, and we're going to work on timing and bringing that forward so that you understand as we're working through and as you go through the decision-making process, various things, who's responsible for the decision, who provides input for the decision, who does the review, those types of things. And it serves as a good guide for us as we're going through the board process. So that's been completed. Another item that came in the governance process was succession planning. Candace Neely has been doing an outstanding job on pushing that process forward and working through that. Committee structure evaluation. We evaluated a year ago and will continue to evaluate on an annual basis. Are the committees that we have, are they still adding value? Do they bring forward ideas? Are they performing the roles? Do we have too many committees? Do we need more committees? We should do that on an annual basis. So some of the recommendations that came forward were through that. So the imperatives I mentioned was governance, financial stability, health and safety, technology, infrastructure, amenities, and land use. So the roadmap is not all inclusive. There's still a lot of ideas that are in there. The Strategic Planning Committee is an ongoing process of continuing to evaluate what's happening in the industry, getting feedback. Bill mentioned the surveys. We'll continue to gather feedback, and we'll make the adjustments. So we're moving into the planning cycle now for 2026. This information that we have will then go into the operational and budgeting process for the coming years, and that becomes an annual cycle. Okay? So we've talked extensively on the amenities. What are the big initiatives? What have we got going? We've got Druid Hills, that we've got the clubhouse going. We've got the Racket Club expansion. One of the things you notice that spans multiple years. Right now our capital is split across 4 different years, and Greg and William Taylor with the Racket Sports Expansion Committee be looking at that. Does that make sense? Is it a better way of doing it, another option? Yeah, Ted. Get Greg to do his job.
On the Racket Club expansion, are you talking about just outdoor courts? Or are you talking about expanding the building itself for additional indoor courts? I just what was the overall thought about it?
So 2 years ago when they made the recommendation, I don't know how familiar you are with our racket center. So we have 4 indoor tennis courts. And as pickleball has grown, the capacity for getting court time is diminished. So we needed more courts. But we also have the collision during inclement weather, during the winter months and during rain, windy. So there's 1 court in the Racket Center that's lined with 4 pickleball courts. And then this year we actually lined 2 more pickleball courts on the third or one of the other tennis courts. But then you have increased compression because you got tennis and you got pickleball all competing for the same spot. And I joke, but it's not a joke, and it's a nationwide thing that tennis and pickleball are kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys, okay? And so what you get is you think about the background of tennis. It grew up in Wimbledon, quiet please, and then you get these pickleballers that come in or with all the racket and noise that they create. Anybody watch that movie Happy Gilmore with golf? You know, the crowd that rah, rah, rah. So pickleballers are kind of like the Happy Gilmores of the Racket Sports Committee, right? Instead of peace and quiet, you get a lot of noise. So what the proposal was is we add capacity and we add more indoor capacity for pickleball, and you make a separation of tennis and pickleball. So there's a lot of different options for doing that. The initial recommendation that came forward was build 8 new pickleball courts outdoors, and then come back in a year later and cover them. My question to Greg and the team, does that make sense? Is to build them and then cover them? Or do we cover the existing 8 courts? Or we do something else? And the group is going down, I think, over to Knoxville here shortly, or they already went, to look at some of the other complexes and what they're doing. And so they'll come back and say, either validate what our current plan is and say, yep, that makes most sense, let's do that. Or present different options for what we do to increase capacity both indoor and outdoor as that sport grows. So I've said it before, but the projections 2 years ago that committee were right on target. So we had 100 pickleball people back in 2018. And they track it by, you got to register on an app to be able to schedule a court. In 2018, we had about 100 people. Now we have close to 700 people. It's just expanded. And those are just members of the community, and it continues to grow. So you can see the compression, why we have compression onto court time. And the revenue for the Racket Center has represented that growth in the pickleball as well. So is that intricate? That good, Ted? Yeah. All right. You want a little thing? All right. You'll notice we've got in the amenities too, golf, ops, and capacity. One of our primary amenities, one of the things that Fairfield Glade is known for, as we continue to grow as a community, we need to continue to assess what are we seeing. Are we seeing difficulty getting tee times? Are there opportunities for operational efficiencies in there? So we want to take a look at that and do that probably mid-year 2026 and make a recommendation. What do we want to do in the future? So you'll notice a lot of stuff up front in the strategic plan, but there's also some key things in here that then we'll have to make some decisions on how they feed. And I'll get into the big one in a second. You've got Druid Hills bunker renovations. That's always been on the capital plan. I think we might have moved it up a little bit. Dorchester bunker renovations. And then we got the Heatherhurst snack bar out in 2029. And then the irrigation, which is a big expensive item that we've got on the capital plan as well. Again, this is an ongoing process. We'll continue to evaluate, and we'll say, as we get survey results, we'll look at other amenities and things, and we'll on an annual basis, make any adjustments we need in these roadmaps and plans. POA, I thought it was important that we continue to emphasize that we do road paving. That's a major capital expense that we do, anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 a year that we spend on paving. So we wanted to make that visible, that we continue to improve the roads by continuing to pave as an organization. The emergency management presentation, one of the key items coming out of the strategic planning had to do about being a model organization for disaster preparedness and that type of thing. On May 13th, there's a presentation, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's sponsored by FGRS, and I put it on here because it's in line with some of the things that we have in our strategic plan. So on May 13th, FGRS is sponsoring the From Dispatch to Response, Strengthening Emergency Coordination, and I think that's going to be an excellent presentation, education, and the timing's well with the California fires that happened, and you got some things going on in New Jersey, create that awareness, and I appreciate FGRS taking the lead in getting that set up. So if you get a chance, go out on May 13th to see that. Yeah, Tom.
So along those lines, and does it fit into this here? Where do we stand in terms of, if we have a sudden event, you pick it, tornado, whatever, and this facility can't handle it from what I understand, What are we preparing to do to support people that
Well,
might be affected?
That's a good question to bring to that presentation, because both the fire department and Chief Kate Self will be there. So they'd be able to answer those questions at that presentation. This is about strategic plan, Tom. I can't give you all the answers to all your questions during this.
I didn't phrase it properly then. What I'm looking for is what are we doing or preparing for?
Again, that's something I would have that conversation with. Back behind you, Greg, over here.
Yeah, you're going to have to call yourself out over here because I don't see it.
The Heatherhurst snack bar renovation,
Yeah.
is that similar to the proposal from 2-3 years ago?
Well, it's an old proposal. We'll have to take a look at and say, is this still what we want to do? But yes, it's similar, where we renovated the pro shop on that side, and we didn't renovate the snack bar part. It's to pick up, but we need to relook at it and see what's makes sense
Okay,
to do
great.
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, the big item on the POA, you had a lot of conversation. There's a lot of things in our strategic plan. Sidewalks, Steve, you brought that up earlier. As we've talked about our development plan south of Peavine. In the strategic plan, there's things about bike trails and community meeting spaces, whether it's for cards or whether it's meeting. We're a growing community, and we have to grow our facilities to be able to meet that growing demand and the needs. And to do that and do it rather than piecemeal, we want to have a community master plan. And that includes our administrative space. You know, we've got our administrative space back there, and it's been around a while, and we're going to grow in terms of people, the visibility, the welcomeness of the environment. So a lot of things that you see in the strategic plan regarding parks, about new buildings, about meeting space. One of our big topics is wellness center. Okay, we've got the Covenant one over here, but what do we need in the future in terms of wellness center? All those things we want to incorporate into requirements for a community master plan. And some folks are working on putting together some of the requirements and defining what it is we want to get out of a community master plan, including all those things that we keep talking about, that we're growing. And you hear things about some communities. I just heard about somebody that is actually moving down to the villages in Florida, a hobby space where I can do woodworking or various. Those are all things we want to think about. And so as we build a community master plan, that'll inform more about some of these years on some of the major expenses that we have regarding facilities, roads, parks. What do we want to do with some of the common areas? But we need that in that community master plan. Any questions on that one? EMR program pilot, we haven't talked much about that. So what that is, the fire department has actually been working extensively on emergency medical response. So one of the top items that we get from the survey is health and safety, and one of our core values. Well, we've got some EMS stationed here, but sometimes they're off somewhere else. And the fire department has done a tremendous job of doing some research and looking at options for starting an EMR program. And we've got Chief McLaughlin and Chief Self that have a lot of conversation. And in the process of reviewing some of what the fire department is recommending, we found a county here in Tennessee, Blount County, that is actually doing additional training for their deputies and getting them EMR certified. So our police officers respond to a lot of assist and emergency medical. So one of the first steps we're doing from a community club is training some officers, working with the county to train some officers to get them EMR certified, and working with the fire department, and they're going to come and talk to us at our next workshop about proposals about what they want to do. But they have to work together too, because we're Fairfield Glade Community Club, and you have to work with the county. You have to make sure that you have the appropriate support from the county for these programs. But I think it's going to be a tremendous thing, tremendous value once we get it up and running with what the fire department's proposing and what we're doing with our police officers. So more to come on that. We'll get the chiefs and together at some point and make a presentation about what more specifics about that. Technology. Technology changes so rapidly, and John and team back there, they do a nice job. But what are some of the opportunities that we can do to expand the use of technology? I don't know if anybody's been to the Racket Center, but you can use your card to check in. You don't have to have an attendant. If you've got money on your card, you just scan it and go. So there's tremendous opportunities both from a member and from a guest experience standpoint for leveraging technology, as well as operational efficiencies to help manage some of our expenses. And we want to map that out in an overall technology plan, okay? The reserve study, when we first did reserve study, we said we need to refresh it every 3 to 5 years. We had it out there in 2028, and the board feels that it's 2026 is more appropriate. So we're going to initiate an update to the reserve study in 2026. You've all heard about the fire and EMS station. That is going on, a big project. Communication strategy, already starting to see some of that. How can we get better? How can we keep you informed better? You see it in our website. Greg talked about how we're going to restructure some of the board stuff and communicate more effectively. Getting surveys. Hopefully, I don't know if it is, but it will be, is part of the survey, getting your feedback. Are you getting the communication, the information you need? Community education, big part. We think we can get some value to that. But in order to do that, we don't want to do it piecemeal. We want to have an overall strategy for what we're doing. I already mentioned the responsibility matrix, the board of director and committee chairperson education. We used to have more of that. We want to get back to that we have specific orientation for those that take over chairs of committees and board members. There's a lot of complexity in running an operation like we have here and improving that orientation process. Nominating and development committee, being more intentional. People that are interested in being part of the leadership, either at the committee level or at the board level, how can we be more active in going out there and saying, these are the types of experiences we need, we really be interested, are you interested? What's a good way to develop our next leaders in the community? Any questions on the POA piece? Which one? Axon. So we have a contract for the body cameras for the police officers, and I don't know all the detail that's in there. We can ask, but the contract that we have to lease the body cameras, the cameras in the car, and various other types of things, that contract comes up for renegotiation, I believe in 2030. Is that right, Bill? Do you remember? Is it 2030?
I think it is.
So it's a significant contract, so we
It's
wanted
30.
to represent it on the roadmap. One thing way out there on the right in the governance section that we got out in 2029, 2030. Occasionally, this community has looked at alternative governance models. As we grow and we get bigger, does it still make sense to operate as a POA, or does it make sense to consider incorporation? What are the pros and cons of doing that? And it's been looked at over a number of times, I know, 2 times. So we wanted to put it on the roadmap that as we grow at the pace we're doing, we wanted to take a step back and make sure we refresh and reflect on the governance of Fairfield Glade, if it still makes sense to maintain our POA or look at an alternative governance model. Okay, the last line, wastewater management. These are all pulled right off of Bruce's 10-year plan. Bruce's, that is the one area where we have had a very significant, well thought out and executed strategic plan that Bruce Evans has been managing for years. So these are the things that Bruce has on the 10-year plan. I know he's talked about a few of them over the time. One of them that was new to me that is out there in past 2029, 2030 If you've been out and visited the wastewater, we've got, I think, two lagoons, two. But with our growth projections, somewhere around 2030 or a little beyond, we'll be looking at another lagoon out in the wastewater management area. Yeah, I don't have a lot of detail, Ted, in there. I think that it relates to there's some piping underneath the St. George Lake that there might be some leak issues that need to be taken care of, but it's been on the plan. Okay, so what we're going to do, the Strategic Planning Committee, as we get new members, they're responsible for continuing to look at what items we have in the strategic plan, continue to research, continue to survey, identify the interests, as well as what's happening nationally, what are things, whether it's indoor golf or simulators or those types of things, what are the things that we need to consider as a community to continue to thrive and provide the member experiences we want. We're talking with the Strategic Planning Committee. They're thinking about a town hall, maybe in the June, July timeframe, to give a more extensive update. And this will be a continuous process of looking, revising, and adjusting our roadmap and making sure that as we're doing our annual processing, we're incorporating our strategic thoughts into that annual processing so that we capture what we've spent so much time and energy on coming up with a roadmap. So, Bruce?
Maybe this is more for Greg, but back on the amenities, we had, the board had back before we started the Druid project plan, an F&B strategy long-term, and Heatherhurst was part of that. The Druid Clubhouse was part of that. Have you all looked in, and are you going to update that F&B strategy as we build the clubhouse?
We actually haven't had much conversation on that, but I think we need to incorporate it. Greg, do you have any insight into it?
I think there's a couple things where that's going to come. We started already talks about with Bobby Jones Links about what the next contract might look like. We're going to pull them into a lot of that conversation for obvious reasons. Some of it's up there, though. You know, the renovation of like Heatherhurst, the strategic planning group has already gotten that, and we tried to pull over several of those things, Bruce, that were in our plan originally into this plan. And I think the strategic planning team has done a pretty good job of that, really. So some of that's going to be where we go in terms of Bobby Jones Links. They've got some ideas. I know we have some ideas, and I think it's going to get incorporated more in there.
Ted, Greg, Tom has a question.
Some of that, Bruce, will be contemplated also as part of the land use plan, as looking at the whole master plan of the campus. Food and beverage will obviously be an important piece of that as well. Yeah.
Tom?
So the first one is, as I recall, when the strategic plan was presented, there was a number of questions and points made. I think I made some too about putting some measures behind what was recommended. Now, it may not apply to the roadmap, I'm not sure, but I haven't heard anything since that meeting.
You're talking about the KPIs?
Yeah, the KPIs.
Yeah, and we've got a fairly extensive list, and we're going to continue to work with Bill and the SMT team as we talk about what are the key measures that we're looking at that drive or provide us oversight as to how well we're performing. So that's work in process. We're doing that.
Same with then I assume it's because a number of those things also dealt with the board, as I recall.
What's that?
A number of those items, that the KPIs, there were items in there. I don't have the plan here that dealt with board and KPIs at the same time, as I recall.
Yeah, I think there's some things in there that we need to take a look at of doing a self-evaluation or evaluation of board performance and various things. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, those are still in there.
And I just, it's not for this one, but when Greg, you just mentioned Bobby Jones, I think you ought to go into that a little bit more with the members.
Well, we will.
Yeah, we'll at appropriate time.
No, I know, it doesn't go here, but I mean, you just threw that out and it caught me by surprise.
Okay?
Okay.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, part 3 here. I'm going to shorten this a whole lot because we've been doing Q&As, but we wanted to take the opportunity, because we had people here, to give you an opportunity to ask questions, and maybe even some of you that have been to other ones, you may want to ask different questions, and that's okay too. So this is going to be really a shortened thing, and one of the big things that you will miss from this one or from this one that were in past ones is Tom Anderson gave, I thought, just a wonderful presentation about how we got to where we are as a community. And it takes a little time to do that, so I'm not going to do that, but we'll get some of the high points. So the idea here is to hit us through the high points. Okay, so what we're calling this is a path to thoughtful growth. Some of you probably realized, you've been here a lot longer than I have, and I don't even know, Nico, for instance, what the population was here like when you showed up here. Yeah, but I do know over about the last 6 years, we've grown from a community about like 4,500 residents and members to really and I used to say 9,500. I found out that I was really wrong. It's now 10,000. So that's in 6 years, almost double the growth. And with that, there's opportunities that we need to really start looking at. So here we go. Everyone knows that we have been recognized in publications and even with surveys and that type of thing of one of the best lifestyle communities here in the United States. And that continues to draw people here because they understand not only that we have a nice natural community, but we have some finest amenities that you can find for the price points that we have. But we know that this is going to continue to have to grow, and we really want to make that a managed or a planned growth thing. All right, the CNRs. They're riveting reading. But if you read them, and especially in the sections that we have that we're breaking or trying to propose amendments to, it has always been the CNR's intent to have the declarant, who's Tom Anderson, and the community club work together on growth. You really can't do one without the other. Tom does control where roads and water go. We control where sewer goes. So he can't really do much unless we're following him with sewer, and we can't do much if there's not roads and water, okay? Matter of fact, our sewer doesn't work very well without water. So this has truly been a partnership, and I will tell you this much, if you read the CNRs, they've been around since 1997. Every time I get in them, seems to be a lot more often than I care to, I really have a lot of respect for the people that wrote those things because they've served us pretty well for 20, almost 30 years now. And they put a lot of forethought and actually did a lot of planning for things I probably would have never thought about at that time. So we owe them really a debt of gratitude. Okay, so declarant. Tom Anderson became the declarant in 2017. This is somewhat of an infomercial for him, but at the same time, it's true. He's made some sizable investments here, not the least of which is the growth. He's done a lot of that. The community club participated in that too, but he's been very much involved in that. Okay, what the real large and short part of this is what the amendments are doing is giving him, Tom Anderson, the declarant, the same rights that we have as sewer to directly bill property owners when he puts in the infrastructure. Now, let me go through why that's important, and you'll get some of the history here. I better do this. People will yell at me. Okay. So this is a map of Fairfield Glade, all of Fairfield Glade. What we're talking about mainly is about from this area south. It does not include the stables, okay? The board has not decided what to do with the stables. So there's none of this is being affected by the stables or the stable decision. Now, this area down here, and before we get to this area, I'm going to talk about what Tom does today. That big white area up there, that's basically where Maple Ridge, Chestnut Ridge, and the other land that the declarant owns is placed. What the declarant does now, and listen very carefully here, he goes up to the land that he wants to develop. He puts in the infrastructure. After he puts in the infrastructure, he parcels out all of the land into lots. And when he gets done with plotting the lots, he puts the cost of that infrastructure into the lot that people buy. That's very different than down here. Because what happened is these lots are all sold. So they're not land anymore, they are lots. And I'll go through who owns those. What's happened, because the lots are sold, there's no place to put the cost of the infrastructure. Because it wasn't developed, it was sold. So now what the problem is, and the issue is that Tom has no mechanism, or for that matter, any declarant would have no mechanism. If he went in and built roads, there's no way for him to bill anybody for the cost of those roads. And quite honestly, if we have any nature or any desire to develop any of this land, you've got to have roads, you've got to have water, and you've got to have sewer, okay? So that's why we're talking about this today. Now, you'll see the hodgepodge here, and you see all these different colors. There's 4 groups that own land, I should say lots, in this area. And I'll get to the private ones at the last. But the largest group that owns lots is Fairfield Glade Community Club, us. And we own about 1,775 of the lots down in this area. Now, those generate not one nickel of revenue for us. Absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, all of us get the opportunity to pay taxes on those lots that we own. So it's a drain on us. It's not a help. The second group that owns it is Wyndham, and Wyndham owns about 1,295 of lots in this area. Wyndham pays assessments to us. So they pay almost to the tune of almost $800,000 in assessments in a year, on the lots that they own here. The third group is the county, and the county owns about 883 lots in this area. And again, they generate no revenue for us. We don't, the county obviously doesn't pay taxes on the land they own, but we as Cumberland County residents, we get the opportunity of not seeing any benefit from those taxes because they're not paid. So it affects the way that we live as a member of the county. The fourth group are the private owners, and there's about 4,000 of those. So they bought this land, you can probably guess, probably the 70s, 80s, that time frame, promised that they were going to get development down here, and never got it. So not a lot of them are happy campers. As a matter of fact, you would probably take a look at this map probably in, let's just say, 1985 or so. It was probably pretty much all white because all of the private owners owned it. Over time, people didn't pay their assessments. They wanted out, and what's very typical for us is the parents bought this land maybe in the 80s, early 90s even. They passed away, and the kids get a surprise. You own land in Tennessee. And they have no desire to move here. They have no desire to build here. So what they do, and we allow them to do it because of financial hardship reasons and because we want to control those lots, is we get them back. Okay? That's how we get lots here. The second group, the way Wyndham got them is they at one point were the declarant. Most of the lots you see here that they have, they didn't go out and buy. They were leftovers after they got out of being the declarant. The third group, the county, the way they get the lots is really through people not paying their taxes. And this is another reason why we're concerned about this, because once the county gets a lot, it's very difficult to get a clear deed on it. Okay? By state regulation, it takes years for you to get a clear deed, because what the state has put in is law that basically says, gee, this lot is not paid taxes on, and let's say I was a son of somebody who had it, I can come back within a 6-year period, really actually 10, then I can come back and take that lot. And if somebody like Glenn build a house on that, I get the house with it. So it's a very difficult thing to do, and we're trying to work and try to get some of that at least moved up. We're not going to eliminate that, but at some point, it's probably the most onerous law I've seen, even when I was in banking. We never saw lots having to be tied up that long. So that's why this is important. Now, when you come up here and you look at this map, you'll see like little white areas where there's roads. So what the declarant did do at that time is he sold the lots. He did get them plotted. That's why there you see little squares as opposed to just white land, okay? And he did go to the county and say, this is where we'd like to put the roads. And the county said, okay. But so all the easements, all that plotting is already done, but he never built them. So that's what this is about in terms of the lots and how we got them and kind of where we're going with them. That is a typical road. Matter of fact, that would be considered a good road down that area because it's got at least some gravel on it. I have, and people that have served on the lot committee, I know when I've been out there, you can get a physical address for each one of these little white squares or colored squares. And it'll say like 123 Main Street. You'll go down there to try to take a look at that lot, and you may be standing in the middle of a forest. You may be on one of these kind of roads. You may be nothing but grass. But when you drive with your GPS, because the address has been registered, you will see it stop, and all of a sudden you're looking around and saying, what's this? So that's the situation that we have down here. The Community Club Board of Directors is unanimously in favor of this. There's not one of us that really support this. But we know if we don't get the support on this amendment, that basically this area is likely never to get developed. Altogether, if you just heard my numbers, that's about 8,000 lots. Now, that doesn't mean all 8,000 are buildable lots, okay? So let's be clear. There's probably 2,000, maybe even more than that, that we'll never be able to build on because, as you know, by driving through our nice community, we have hills, we got slopes, we got drop-offs, we got all of that. And that's going to be found down here too. So keep that in mind. And the reason why this is coming up now is before the declarant got bankrupt, and he had developed all of this area right in here. And when I say developed, I mean everything from sewer to water to roads and all of that. That was all in there. Over the last 50 years, this is now getting to the point where it's pretty well built out. We need more land if we're going to have to grow. Now, there's still A lots and B lots and that type of thing there for some development, but that's going to, over time, it's going to dry up. It's going to be done. So this is really opening up this area really for development, okay? This is a high threshold, and this is the reason why we're trying to get all the information out we can. And the most important thing here is it takes 3/4 of the voting property owners, okay, that actually vote in the election or in the vote, make a vote to pass this amendment. It's not 1/50% or anything like that. It's 3/4 of the property owners that make a vote on this amendment. So that's a pretty high threshold. It means that if we don't educate people, then we really run the risk of really not getting the vote that we want or need. Now, the other thing I would tell you, I'm getting into some of the confusing questions that we've had. If you live right now with a house, with a sewer, with a water, okay, this does not apply to you, okay? You've already paid your infrastructure costs. And this came up as questions also, and I'm kind of trying to get some of the questions in here so I anticipate where some of you might go. People say, well, gee, why don't we just take that and, develop that land, let the community club pay for the roads? And that seems fair. Well, fair is each one of you people that's sitting in here that is living in a home here in Fairfield Glade, you have already paid for the infrastructure for your home. And it came in when you when you bought the house. It came into if you built the house, when you built the house, that cost was embedded in there. These people have had none of that, okay? And again, if this would have been a perfect world, the developer would have gotten in here and developed all this, built the roads, got the sewer, got the water in, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. But that didn't happen, okay? So some of the benefits, I'll go through this pretty quickly. Probably the biggest thing, generate revenue. And we know, and Scott, I know, knows probably this in spades because of his work on the strategic planning committee, but we all know that this community, the assets we have are built for 4,500 people or 4,500 residents, and we're still living it with 10,000. So it's a little wonder when people talk about not having card areas. It's a little wonder when people say, I can't get a meeting room. It's a little wonder when they say, well, gee, you know, it's getting so crowded on the golf courses, I can't get, you know, I can't even get on sometimes. Or even, especially in racket sports now, and particularly pickleball, because the even growth projections there has been much higher than even the other amenities. So there's real repercussions to us for not having this kind of thing done. Now, what I'd also tell you is that in this board, and the last boards have really taken this on, is the philosophy before probably, I would say probably around 2015, 14, something like that, was we build an asset, we run it till it can't run anymore, and then, oh, by the way, we'll now build a new one. That's probably the most expensive way to continue to maintain your assets. The poster child for that is what happened over at Druid Hills Clubhouse. That building was only about 53 years old. Life expectancy on a building like that should be somewhere between 75 and 100. But when we got in and saw what was happening there, and we did the first independent engineering study to see if we could renovate it, we had leaky roofs, we had water in the walls, we had mold, we had trusses that were not to code. It was a whole series of things. And it didn't take a mental giant to figure out pretty quickly renovation was not in the cards. But it's a shame because if that building had been maintained this way it should have been, we should have been able to make some renovations and we wouldn't be talking about a $16 or $17 million expenditure here. But that's what was happening. The boards recently have said we're not going to let that happen anymore. That's why we took the reserve study, and now that's in there, and the whole purpose of the reserve study is to lay out a life expectancy for an asset and figure out what you got to do to maintain it to keep that asset to its full life expectancy. And that's what that's for. So that has been a problem here for quite a while, and we're living with some of that. But now we're going to have to do, and I'd be a big proponent of this, and Scott alluded to it too, and actually said it in the strategic plan. One of the first things we'll need to do, especially if this amendment passes, and we hope it does, is do a land use study. Because all of a sudden you're not talking about, oh, we're just doing some development here. Well, we're going to have a need for additional assets that are going to take care of the population here, not the least of which would be what are we going to do about more emergency vehicle or more emergency services? What are we going to do about fire? What are we going to do about food and beverage? What are we going to do about other amenities that we might want to bring in? Where are those going to go? So all of this needs to really force us to do a whole plan of not just this area, but the whole campus at Fairfield Glade. So it really does help us with our long-term planning. It's a 10-year, we have a 10-year capital plan, but this was not contemplated when we did that plan. This is a big deal. It's going to affect our plan. So if we don't have additional revenue, we're going to be looking at living pretty much with what we got. Now, we'll improve it, we'll have to build new, we'll have to do some of that, but you're not going to see a whole big infusion of a lot of new buildings and a lot of new other things, because the other thing that happens with the philosophy we had, and I'll give you the cliff notes on this, is that by and large, the people who lived here were the people who paid for the new amenities. So when we did the Racket Center a couple of years ago, the people that lived here were the ones that had to pay for that. And we thought that that was a little unfair. That's why you heard about the amenity reserve fee going in, because that's the buy-in for somebody who maybe came the week later and said, gee, I get all these amenities and I get them really basically for free. I didn't have to lay out the capital. And that's not right, okay? So one of the big things we're doing with this as well is when we take a look at the infusion of capital and things so that we can actually do some building and do some modernization and grow the campus the way it should, this is going to jumpstart a lot of that. And that's not in the capital plan right now, because the capital plan basically, yeah, there's some things that we're doing like the new pickleball courts and that type of thing. But there's going to come a point where the community is going to be constrained by the amount of capital dollars they have. And for those of you that don't realize it, you should, that when we charge you an assessment, for every dollar of assessment we charge you, we only get 25% of that, a quarter, if you will, that can go into capital projects. That's in our CNRs. The board and the community is limited to a cap of 25% for any kind of capital that we get through assessments. Okay? And this is getting at that point. This should allow us to get a lot more infrastructure improvements in than what we have. Certainly this area down here, there's nothing. There's nothing. I shouldn't say that. More over in here. We've obviously got a golf course, but we have a number of nice lots on there that we can't get infrastructure to, so we don't get anything for those. And it really should increase property values. It certainly will do it for this group, okay? That because they got nothing and now they're going to have something, there's going to be a value on it once the infrastructure gets in. Now, when we talk about the declarant, Tom wears actually two hats. One of the hats is the declarant. That's the developer. His role is spelled out in the CNRs, and his role when he's wearing that hat is getting this developed. He also is the owner of Fairfield Glade Homes, so he's a builder too. And if there's been one time I've probably asked this question 100 times, well, does this mean that Fairfield Glade Homes is going to build out all these lots? The answer is a real quick no, and Tom has publicly said it's no. He stood in front of 4 of these question and answer sessions and said the answer is no. There's no way he could do that. Right now in Fairfield Glade, most years we build between 100 and 125 new homes. He represents 30 to 40 of those every year. You're not going to get all of this developed by one builder. Now, that means that other builders, and I've heard this question, well, gee, that doesn't seem fair to the other builders. What's going to happen is Tom has agreements with Wyndham, us, and the county through us to buy lots, okay? Those are all agreed to. But there's still 4,000 people there, or individual property owners, all these wide areas, by and large, that some of them are going to say, yeah, I want to build. Some of them are going to say, I don't want to build. Some of them will say, get me out of this. And so builders will have other opportunities. They're not going to have to buy all of their lots from Tom. They can go down and negotiate with anybody who owns property and try to buy that lot for whatever they can get for it. Okay? And with new builders, probably there will be additional kinds of homes that we don't anticipate. Now, one question that typically comes up is says, well, gee, are you going to build condos down there, apartment complexes? The answer is absolutely not. Because, see all these little individual rectangles? If you were going to put a condominium down there, for instance, you would have to have 50, 60, maybe 100 of those people all agree that they're going to sell it to the same person at the same time. That ain't going to happen. Plus, we would have to go through rezoning with the county to even have that as a multifamily dwelling as opposed to just a single family dwelling. So under any condition that you look at with the reality tempered in, you're talking about single family homes. Now, there can be different styles of those, and that's going to happen, but they're all going to be single family. And really it does for the people that have held on to these lots for God knows how many years. It makes good on the promise that they were sold the lot with a long time ago that said, you're going to get development down here. And it allowed us to really plan and thoughtfully plan how growth's going to happen. Now, another thing, a question that usually comes up, well, what's going to be the rate of growth? Well, let's just be honest here, okay? I don't see any board today or in the future that's going to say, let's bring Pulte in there and build 400 homes a year. Because they have the capacity to do that. They really want to come in and do that. That's not what we're looking for. So this area here to develop, and it's still got lots to develop on, has taken over 50 years to get where it is today. You're probably looking at least that for this, okay? It's not going to happen overnight, and we recognize that. So it's going to be thoughtful and planned growth. And what the reason why we want that is we don't want somebody to come in and say, well, I'm going to put in roads and I'm going to put in infrastructure and all that down here. And so sewers run and everything like that. And then somebody else comes over here, and then somebody comes over here. That's not what we're looking at in terms of thoughtful growth. It'll be phased where really the community and the declarant, the water, the sewer, the electric, all of those areas, all the major utilities, all the real infrastructure you really need are going to work together and have to work together in order for this to be phased. So once it starts, it'll probably just kind of grow in a sequential or logical way. So that's what that's about. Voting starts May 27th, and it goes till June 21st. And we're having the same company that handles our board elections to handle these elections because they got all of our data. They can test all the emails and that type of thing. For everybody who has an email, that vote will be electronic. For those people that don't have emails, snail mail is what we'll do because that's the only way we can get to them. But we have a mandate that we have to send out to all property owners a ballot on this. And I think for the last board election, we sent out 12,000 of those ballots. It'll change a little bit because we do sell lots and it's different than it was last year, so it'll grow a little bit, but we'll be in that neighborhood, somewhere around there. Okay, with that, do you have any questions? I'm going to let you just hand this around.
All right, I can do that. And thanks again for presenting this and the opportunity for asking questions. So in this agreement, first of all, once you make this change to the amendment, you and I have talked about it, but just for the group, it's permanent, correct? In other words, it's in place unless we vote it to change it again.
Yes.
Okay. So how does this work with Tom as the declarant? If he should all of a sudden have an epiphany and say, hey, I can make a lot of money if I sell my declarant rights to somebody else, they already got the amendment, so the declarant gets to do all this stuff. And let's say I just divide this into quarters and I sell it to 4 people. So we got 4 declarants, his rights, and I don't know legally. And all of a sudden, all our planning and everything goes out the window. You see where I'm going?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but remember, we as a community club have rights. We can say we're not going to put sewer in. Okay? That'd be a big deal for somebody to come in and develop. Right. And as a matter of fact, there have been times when Tom, with his declarant rights, has said, I'm not going to put a road in, and you can't do it either. Okay. And that tells builders, well, if I have a house out there and I can't get sewer or a road to it, I'm not going to build it. So there are some natural things. Also, one of the things that, again, you wouldn't realize unless you're really into the governance of this stuff, is that there are what I call, okay, thank you, Jason. There are what I call implementing policies. So like, for instance, with sewer, The overall policy, section 2, in what you have in your hand, you got 1 and 3, is written almost identically to what's in 1 and 3, with the exception of those yellow highlights, which are the ones we're putting in. But the implementing policies are the things that tell you what things are going to cost, how it's going to be done. The board of directors of Fairfield Glade controls the vote on those policies. So if something came in that was just absolutely wacky, I would expect the board to say, we're not going to approve that. Try again. Okay?
And that works well, but based on the history lesson when I attended the meeting, which was great, but it started these questions in my mind, because one of the issues on the original declarant that happened is he went belly up. And the bankruptcy judge really threw in made a lot of changes to that agreement. So by changing the bylaws, and something happens to Tom and he goes belly up, and a bankruptcy judge comes into play, we're like opening the door.
Not really, because one of the things that bankruptcy came out of is the formation of the community club. We now have CNRs. We now have bylaws. We have an organization that's there that was created through that bankruptcy. The other thing is, and this is a little bit of the history lesson that Tom's talking about, when the person did this originally, this was for a master's thesis, and then he actually acted on it. He was going to put in these communities all the way from North Carolina through here, Arkansas, all the way out to Colorado. And he did that. He extended himself, and those of you that were around in the mid-'80s, I was actually working for a savings and loan at the time. I got brought in to help turn it around. But the fact is, the savings and loan industry just collapsed because they had all these loans out with no collateral or no physical assets that really could be turned into cash. So this guy, he was forced to go belly up because he couldn't retire his debt. That's not the same situation we're in here today. You know, certainly even the financial organizations are not going to let you get too far out in front of yourself. And Tom, I know him to be a very careful developer. He's not going to go in and start putting in roads all over the place like this guy did without knowing that, okay, I'm going to stop right here, get this area developed, now we're going to move on to the next phase. So there's a lot more breaks in here now than there used to be. Yeah.
I'm looking at Jason's report on the lot ownership breakdown.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for that, Jason. There are 1,557 revoked lots,
Yep.
and we have a lien filed on 1,706 lots. So what efforts being made, because we can't get title to these lots, and is the community club going to try to contact all these people? Is Anderson going to try to contact these people? Because that could be a real problem of how things get developed here.
We haven't done it so much on C lots, but on other lots, we'll eventually foreclose on them. Now they go up for auction, and we oftentimes will go in and buy them. So that's, we haven't had, nor have we had really the appetite to do it for the C lots because it costs more to go into the foreclosure business on a C lot than what it's worth. However, that dynamic is likely to change if you have a large area you're trying to develop. So I would expect that we would probably get more active. I know Tom would absolutely get more active because the reason why he can't do really much in terms of liens or foreclosures is because he doesn't have anybody to bill. So he can't say, I provided that service to Greg Jones. I never got a bill from him. So he can't go back on somebody like you typically would, like we can, and say, oh yeah, we ran sewer here in front of you. Oh yeah, we have assessments that you owe us. And yes, if you don't pay them, You're going to also get fined, and we'll eventually put a lien on you. And if that doesn't get your attention, eventually we'll foreclose on you.
My question is more along the line, is Tom Anderson going to contact these lot owners that are revoked or have a lien and say, I want to buy your property. Let's negotiate a price.
Well, he very well could do that. And we had actually other builders that have done that. So a builder can go negotiate, and oftentimes, matter of fact, there was one that happened a couple months ago where the actual builder said, I'll get all the assessments, I'll get all the fees, I'll get everything up to date, but I want that lot.
I guess the rest of the question, though, is, are we working with Tom? Because we have some authority that they haven't paid us. Tom wants to buy that property. He could offer him something. So are we working together so that we can clear up title, get title, and
let me be clear about that.
And get more
We will work
communication.
with anyone who wants to buy a lot. That could be Tom, that could be another builder, that could be you, whoever. We want to get out of the real estate business because that's not our business. We want to get every one of the lots that we possibly can to get generating dues at an A level. We get dues right now from private owners, but we get it at a C level, which is, what's the C level now? About $46, $47, I think. Something like that. But what? Not enough. Not enough. And we don't collect anything on sewer for that. So that's all they're paying because there's no sewer there. And if you don't have sewer, we don't charge you for it. Right. So the fact of the matter is that there's a whole lot of people that we can work with on that. You've got the sheet right there. What is it? The C lot?
C lots are 6885.
Okay.
Oh, that's B, sorry.
Yeah.
5265.
Yeah, I thought it was close.
5265.
Okay, 5255. So that's what we get on those people that are paying us. But what's going to happen over time, this took 50 years to get all these different colors in there. You pass forward another 50 years and guess what? Those people are going to stop paying dues because they're going to give it back to us, they're going to sell it to somebody, or they're going to go belly up and give it to the county, and we won't collect a nickel on those. So it's in our best interest to work with anybody who wants to buy a lot.
With the large number of lots, though, it seems like we're not putting in enough effort, and maybe Tom isn't either. I mean, 1,700 out of 18,000, I mean, that's a pretty good.
The truth of the matter is, Nico, is
we need a better negotiator.
Down here, a number of these lots are sold as what are called membership lots. And people buy them with the hope that they never have to build on them or anybody develops them. Because they just buy them so they can come in and use our amenities at a member fee as opposed to having to come here and pay as a guest. So I know of lots all over this place that have sold for $100, $200, $300. And the whole reason why they do it is they just want the membership rights. As a matter of fact, when I first got on the board, there was a person that actually, the lot owner paid them $10 to take the lot. So that tells you what they had the value on. And right now, these have almost no value because there's no plan to develop them. There's nobody that's going to want them unless you're just wanting to own land for some reason. So yeah, we work with everybody that wants to buy a lot. Okay? Yeah.
Just one last thing for me. Who's all eligible to vote on this amendment?
Anyone who owns property.
Okay, who are they? All those groups you said, Wyndham and...
Pardon me? In good standing. That's right, Ted. I'm glad you said that. So, like I said, last year when we did the board election, that's the most recent one that we've had, there were about 12,200, I think was the number, of ballots that were sent out. It'll be something similar to that this time. We do have people that go in and out of good standing, and if you're not in good standing, that means you're paid up with your dues. And that
what's the breakdown? Like Wyndham has so many?
Well, I gave you pretty close to the breakdowns. These are general ones.
Okay.
We have about 1,775 lots. Wyndham has about 1,295. Private people own about 4,000. And the county, which cannot vote, and we do not vote our lots, okay, because we don't pay dues on them. or
Well, thank you
discussion.
for that, but I appreciate it for all your time.
Okay?
You're right.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Where the Wyndham properties are, that they are giving back to the association.
They're all over the place. They're sprinkled all over.
So sprinkled, the question.
Oh,
was
you're
where-
talking about the common areas.
Yeah,
Oh, this map doesn't show it. We got about 210 parcels of
the question was,
common.
what lots does Wyndham have that are
No,
giving
no,
back to
those
the
are not lots.
association? Oh,
That's common area.
common area, okay.
Okay? So those are patches of ground, if you will.
So it's not like that big pink area down on the bottom or something like that?
It may or may not be. One of the things, Ted, that we're trying to do is we just got all of this in the last couple of months. So one of the things we have to do is walk down all those common areas and find out where they are. 4 of them we did not take. And that's because some of them used to be used for builders when they would get old water tanks and things like that, we'd fill them in, and we told them we don't want those until they're cleaned up.
Okay,
Okay?
very
But
good.
they're all over the place, okay?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Hopper used to have a dumping ground.
That's one of them.
By,
That's one of them. That's one of them.
Okay.
As one resident told me, or one member told me, they were seeing water tanks come up from the ground.
So.
Not a good look.
All the lots have been transferred. Has the title also been transferred?
Yes, common ground. They're not lots. Common ground.
There's a common lot by me that still is in Wyndham's name.
It's not a lot. It's common ground. And in the CNRs, you'll find out that there's 3 types of common ground. And I won't go all into that in here, but common ground, and actually, we've gotten a bargain. People say, well, why in the world are we taking those lots? You know, we were supposed to take those lots in 1997. That's written in the CNRs. And it's written in the CNRs that we cannot refuse them when they give them to us. So we had to take them on. Wyndham had been paying taxes on them for like 28, 29 years. The good news is, since they're common ground, the taxes are pretty low. But the fact is, we got those transferred in, and to be honest with you, Nico, we got to walk them down and see what we have. Because we don't even know what we could maybe even use some of that for. But we know the 4 that have been used like Hopper did for dumping and that type of thing, we're not taking those back till they're cleaned up.
Okay.
Okay? Well, thank all of you. I really appreciate you hanging in here with us for 3 presentations, and really appreciate you staying. So thanks a lot.
Great to take this home.